Chapter 1136. 4 days passed very quickly, and a missing person notice that was released through the Aquamarine Federation's official news was like a stone sinking into the ocean. There was no response at all. Either the target did not see it, or the target did see it, but did not come. Similarly, there were no other reports. Han Xiao had no choice but to let his subordinates continue the carpet search. He also used Bold Explorer on the image of the target provided by Aesop, but what he saw was an image with unknown meaning. A large number of twisted lines passed through the universe, and he did not know what kind of clue that was. After another round of search, the spaceships returned to floating dragons, dock one after another. Many Black Star Corps members walked out of the hatch unhappily. After searching for a few days, they could not find the target every time. Repeating a task that already had a result, anyone would feel frustrated and depressed, and the Army warriors were no exception. Harrison was in the crowd. Suddenly, he saw Jenny's figure from the corner of his eyes, and his heart skipped a beat. He hesitated for a while, walked over, and summoned his courage to talk to her. "Jenny, I'm Harrison. We meet again." Jenny was receiving a group of financial group investors. Hearing someone call her, she turned around, nodded casually, and said calmly, "It's you. What's the matter?" A few days ago, Han Xiao and Ames had gathered the important officers under them and held a small banquet. Han Xiao had introduced Harrison to her, but Jenny did not have a good impression of Harrison. She still remembered that this was a talkative and curious baby, a rash young man. Can I talk to you?" Harrison stuttered. "Now." Jenny frowned slightly, waved her hands, and said unhappily, "I'm very busy now. Can't you see that I have guests here?" Then she looked away, no longer paying attention to Harrison, and walked away with the investors with a distant and cold attitude. Harrison opened his mouth, but did not dare disturb her. He could only follow the group dejectedly and prepare to report the mission to Han Xiao in the Dragon Emperor's palace. However, just as he was about to leave the dock, Harrison suddenly saw a person lying on the ground not far away. His clothes were ragged, and his face was facing down. The passers-by around him did not notice him at all, as if they did not see him. Strange, is that person sleeping on the ground? Why is no one doing anything? Harrison was curious. The Black Star Corps soldier next to him heard him and followed his line of sight. He was immediately puzzled. Where is someone lying on the ground? It's right there. It's so obvious. Can't you see it? Harrison was stunned. The surrounding army warriors all stopped and looked over. After staring for a few seconds, they turned around and looked at Harrison with strange gazes. "Dude, let's go to the eye doctor." Harrison was stunned. His exuberant curiosity was instantly ignited. He shook off the crowd and strode over to the person lying on the ground. He hesitated for a moment before reaching out to push the person's body. "Wake up." This person seemed to have fainted and didn't react at all. Harrison couldn't hold back his curiosity. He reached out and flipped the man over. The moment he saw this person's face, Harrison's eyes widened in shock. "You said this is the person we're looking for?" Half an hour later, Han Xiao rushed back to the base from the Dragon Emperor's palace. He came to a secret interrogation room and looked across the table with a strange expression. "That's right. I found him at the dock. He seems to have fallen into a coma and hasn't woken up." Harrison stood at the side and pointed at the chair opposite the table. Han Xiao looked at the empty chair with a complicated expression. He said with a heavier tone, "You're not kidding me, right? There's no one here." Harrison scratched his head and said in confusion, "I don't understand either. It seems like other than me, no one else can see him. But I can guarantee that he's exactly the same as the target we're looking for." "Where did you find him?" Han Xiao was confused. "You might not believe me." Harrison shrunk his neck. "I picked him up." Han Xiao was speechless. What else can I say? If not for Harrison coincidentally bumping into him. Even if this guy came right in front of him, he probably wouldn't have seen him. No wonder you're an explorer. This is your talent. You can pick up good things wherever you go. Han Xiao was skeptical. After thinking about it, he sent a message to Aesop and asked him to come over. He then asked Harrison to describe this person's appearance. Harrison took a step forward, looked down at the air, at least in Han Xiao's eyes, and said, "He's very haggard. He's so thin that he's just skin and bones. His clothes are tattered, and there's a lot of dust on him. It's like he hasn't taken care of himself for many days. Han Xiao asked Philip to outline this person's current appearance according to Harrison's description. This person was much thinner than the portrait Aesop provided. Without comparison, it was almost impossible to recognize the two as the same person. After a while, Aesop rushed over. He looked at the empty seat as soon as he entered the room and chuckled. "You guys are pretty efficient. You found him so quickly." Seeing this, Han Xiao was depressed. "Why can't I see it? What kind of screening mechanism is this?" If not for the fact that he knew Harrison's personality, he would almost think that these two guys colluded to trick him. With that thought, Han Xiao reached out and swept the air in front of him. He did not feel any physical sensation. "Army Commander," your hand passed through his body. Harrison was explaining when he suddenly got a shock. Wait, he suddenly started convulsing like he was electrocuted. "Hurry up and wake him up." Han Xiao retracted his hand and frowned. He brought up the surveillance footage in the room and realized that all kinds of detection devices could not see this person. Taking pictures was also useless. This situation clearly wasn't invisible. It seemed like only certain people could see and touch this person. What did Aesop and Harrison have in common? If he had to say, it seemed like both of them were pretty lucky. Could it be that only the luck attribute was high enough to see this guy? Then I'd better wash up and sleep early. Just as he was thinking, Harrison suddenly yelled, "He's awake!" Han Xiao was energized. He bit the bullet and said to the air, "Tell me, where are you from?" The air suddenly became quiet. Han Xiao waited for 3 seconds but did not get a reply. Instead, he saw that Harrison and Aesop were listening to something seriously. Did he speak? Looks like I can't hear him either. Han Xiao was helpless. "Tell me, what did he say?" "He said his name is Rhodey Anchor, and he's from Blue Star." Harrison scratched his head and repeated what he said. Hearing the other party say his name, Han Xiao immediately connected to the Blue Star Federation's population database and searched for this name. However, there was still nothing. There was still no trace of this person. This doesn't make sense. Since he's a Blue Star resident, there's no way he doesn't have a file. Either it was erased by an abnormal power, or some kind of power is affecting me to find his identity. Could it be that if I can't see him, I can't find any information about him in any form? But I could hear Harrison's retelling. Han Xiao searched the database in his mind. Suddenly, he thought of a special form of existence. This situation seemed to be the characteristic of a high-dimensional information form. The research on information form in the explored universe was limited. The theory had always been very mysterious. It was believed that any individual was an aggregation that carried information. Height, weight, smell, size, and other factors formed the conditions for this individual to be observed. High-dimensional information form was a special thing. It was like a concept of information that had been stripped of an individual's physical existence, leaving behind only these information to form the basis of existence. Just like the classification of material life forms and energy life forms, it had become a new form of existence. Whether it truly existed or not was only related to the observer. For a specific group of observers, they could perceive this cluster of information. This was a real entity that could be touched. For ordinary people who couldn't observe, they couldn't obtain any information from the high-dimensional information form from any channel. It was like this person didn't exist, like a ghost floating in the world. Both parties couldn't interact with each other. There were various names for this principle, such as information closure, unobservable entity, and so on. At the same time, information closure wasn't limited to the sensory ability of the life form itself. It was also used on technology and magic. For example, one couldn't find files that should have existed, surveillance cameras couldn't capture the target, or group photos that were taken before losing the target's figure. This was because, including virtual technology, these detection devices and techniques were also carriers of information. They were tools used to obtain and store information. In essence, they were no different from the organs of the life form to sense the outside world. Information closure was used on both the life form and these tools. This was also the reason why the existence of information form was given the prefix high-dimensional. However, after a specific group of observers obtained the information, it was equivalent to filtering it and turning it into the observer's own information. Therefore, they could describe the existence of the high-dimensional information form to others. This was the only way to transmit information. However, even if others knew about it, they still wouldn't be able to perceive the high-dimensional information form itself. From the looks of it, he's not a complete high-dimensional information form. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the ability and wouldn't need to eat. Han Xiao pondered. His situation seems like he's only transformed halfway, causing the information he carries to mutate. His existence in the conventional sense has been erased, but he hasn't completely entered the high-dimensional information form. He maintains a certain physical existence and can still interact with some matter. This behavior is more like the awakening of a related Esper ability and temporary loss of control. Why would a perfectly normal person suddenly have an information form mutation? There must be some kind of trigger. Perhaps this is why Aesop foretold him. Get him to tell me everything that happened. Han Xiao came back to his senses, knocked on the table, and said in a deep voice. Currently, he could only rely on Harrison and Aesop as a relay channel to relay Rhodey's situation. Han Xiao quickly figured out the ins and outs of the matter and used the information form theory to explain what had happened to this person. This person's name was Rhodey Anchor, and he had always been living in Blue Star. Some time ago, he had mutated and gained part of the characteristics of a high-dimensional information form. He had tried to transmit information under various circumstances, but all of them had failed. He had no choice but to transform into an old fat otaku and live there for a few months. A few days ago, he had seen the missing person notice from the Black Star Corps. Therefore, he had excitedly sent countless messages to the Army's mailbox, but he had not received any reply. He had no choice but to step onto the spaceship and sneak over to Floating Dragon, planning to look for Han Xiao. Once a life form passed through his half-high-dimensional information form body, he would unilaterally read part of the life form's information, creating hallucinations similar to foresight, which would eventually cause him to faint. If he wanted to do anything to other people with his current body, it would be equivalent to tampering with other people's state of existence from the information level, using the information form to distort reality. This required a huge amount of energy, which he could not afford. Therefore, he would faint midway every time. This was a self-protection mechanism. Therefore, he carefully avoided all the passers-by along the way. However, when he arrived at Floating Dragon's dock, without making contact with anyone, he suddenly had a foresight image and fainted. This was how he appeared on Floating Dragon and was coincidentally seen by Harrison. Han Xiao captured the key information from this and pondered. He awakened foresight. Maybe the mutation of his information form came from the sudden appearance of his foresight ability? I think it's possible, Aesop said with a deep voice. Foresight ability can be seen as the ability to sense, process, and deduce information. In the mouth of us foreseers, there are also names such as fate lines, causality lines, and so on. Because foresight ability requires a lot of fate lines to be tightly entangled with a lot of fate lines, it's not impossible for it to cause one's own information form to mutate. You've touched on my blind spot. Han Xiao was a little troubled. Old man, your prophecy said that I had interacted with him a long time ago. Does that mean that I solved the mutation disaster and saved his life? Based on Rhodey's experience, Han Xiao thought of this possibility. How would I know? Aesop shrugged helplessly. If the prophecy was so accurate, would I have been caught by you in the past? Han Xiao squeezed his fingers hesitantly. He did think of a way to figure out the other party's situation, which was to extract his combat information. However, he had to first make contact with this person. It seems like if a normal person wants to observe a high-dimensional information form life form, they have to be closely entangled with the other party's information. He seems to be able to come into contact with dead objects. So, it's not a real high-dimensional information form that's almost unsolvable. I can't see the clothes he's wearing, which means that the clothes have been assimilated. Maybe I can start from this. After thinking about it, Han Xiao took out a mechanical suit, connected it with mechanical force, and tried to touch Rhodey. However, the experiment failed. Rhodey passed through without any resistance. The mechanical suit that accepted the mechanical force connection maintained contact with Han Xiao, so he was unable to touch the other party. He deactivated the mechanical force connection and let Rhodey come into contact with it again, but it still failed. Artificial intelligences are also observers, Aesop reminded him. Han Xiao had no choice but to deactivate the artificial intelligences in the mechanical suit. After experimenting again and again, when the virtual connection was completely cut off, Rhodey finally successfully put on the mechanical suit. The next moment, the mechanical suit disappeared right in front of Han Xiao's eyes. Seeing this, Han Xiao tried to use mechanical force, virtual technology, and other means to find the existence of the mechanical suit, but it was to no avail. This mechanical suit disappeared into thin air, just like that, also turned into a high-dimensional information form. Then, Han Xiao had Rhodey take off the mechanical suit, and the suit appeared on the ground out of thin air. After using all kinds of methods to test it, Han Xiao could not help but sigh. He's like an information black hole. I'm at my wit's end. Aesop had his hands on his hips, frowned, and said, "Is there really no other way? This thing can be called metaphysics or materialism, but it's too difficult to find a loophole." Han Xiao was a little helpless. Someone who could not observe Rhodey would not be able to create any information interaction. Combat was also a form of interaction. Even if Han Xiao hit him with a cannon, he might not be injured at all. Only when a neutral weapon that was not affected by any observer attacked him would he be fully injured. If not for the fact that this guy can affect other non-observer life forms subjectively, he would be a terrifying infiltrator. Han Xiao clenched his teeth, looked at Harrison, and said, "Can you help me? Can you help me ask him what he wants me to do for him?" Harrison nodded, listened for a while, and repeated, "Your Excellency Black Star, he's begging you. He hopes that you can help him get out of this state." As soon as he said that, Han Xiao's heart skipped a beat. A notification popped up on the interface. "You have triggered the mission, Destiny's Child, Sub-Body Transformation. Mission Introduction. Rhodey Anchor, an ordinary person who worked hard, had a special mutation one day. He hopes that you can help him solve this problem. Mission requirements. Resolve Rhodey's mutation and find the source of the mutation. Rewards. X2 random rewards, plus 80 Rhodey favorability. X2 characters summon cards before Han Xiao could take a closer look at the mission. A thin, weak, middle-aged man appeared in front of him, sitting on a chair and looking at him with a hopeful expression. It was the victim, Rhodey, who had appeared out of nowhere. It had worked. Han Xiao was shocked. He did not have much hope, but he did not expect it to work. Being able to see Rhodey meant that there was an information entanglement between the two parties, and the source was definitely not just the other party's request. Han Xiao was sure that if the interface did not trigger the mission, even if he knew the other party's request, he would not have been able to see him. So, the interface became a bridge between the two parties, helping him complete the information entanglement. However, this was not what surprised Han Xiao the most. The reason was the name of the mission. Destiny's Child. Isn't that one of the trump cards of the Germinal organization in version 1.0? Although I've never seen it, I've gotten its character summon card before. How is this related to Destiny's Child? Wasn't that guy already dead? So, this is what Aesop meant by intersection. Han Xiao's mouth twitched, and thousands of words surged in his mind, but they all converged into one sentence. Amazing. Chapter 1137. Godly Mechanic, Hospital Escort. Today's update will probably be a little late. Please wait for a moment. Once the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1138. All of a sudden, surprise and doubt filled his mind. Decades had passed, but Han Xiao still remembered it clearly. He used to think that Destiny's Child was just a simple foreseer who died in the nuclear explosion of the Germinal organization. However, it seemed that Destiny's Child was hiding more secrets. Not only did he reappear in the Blue Star, but he was also related to the information form. Originally, He thought that the Germinal organization was already at its limit, having him, Gila, and Aurora. Who would have thought that Destiny's Child, who had died so early, was also not that simple? It was truly a place full of hidden talents. Even if the Germinal organization leader suddenly revived and jumped in front of him one day, he probably would not be surprised anymore. Destiny's Child, what exactly is he? Han Xiao was shocked. He could not rest assured until he understood the truth. This time, Harrison's voice sounded in his ears. Army Commander? Han Xiao came back to his senses and realized that the three of them were staring at him. In their eyes, Black Star suddenly went into a daze. Aesop shook his head and thought that he understood why Han Xiao was silent. He explained, even the three universal civilizations only know a little about the information form theory and haven't been able to study it fully. I know this request might be a little difficult for you. Rhodey panicked and said with despair, then what should I do? If even His Excellency Black Star can't do it, who can save me? Good people, please help me convince His Excellency Black Star. I really don't have a way. Hearing that, Han Xiao waved his hand. Don't worry, I'll try to help you. That's great. Thank you, Black. Huh. Rhodey subconsciously thanked him, but halfway through, he was stunned. He stared at Han Xiao with his eyes wide open with shock and surprise. Aesop and Harrison were also shocked and looked at Han Xiao in surprise. Army Commander, you can see him? Yes, I can. But you clearly. Did you find a way? But you didn't do anything. Aesop was surprised. Han Xiao coughed dryly and said, a real high-dimensional information form life form can choose who observes them. It's possible that his strong will trigger the characteristics of his own information form and actively created an information entanglement with me. To put it simply, he subjectively moved me out of the blacklist. A question mark popped up above Harrison's head. His big eyes were filled with confusion. There was such a thing? Aesop thought about it and accepted this explanation. He muttered to himself, this makes sense. He may have inherited this trait, but he can't control it actively. However, he may be able to subconsciously influence it. Han Xiao looked at him with a smile and silently cheered for the old man in his heart. That's the feeling. Please continue to imagine and help me convince yourself. Like a drowning man grasping at the last straw, Rhodey put his hands on the table and trembled with excitement. Thank you so much, he said in a trembling voice. Thank you so much. You really like what the news says. Not only are you a great man of Blue Star, but you're also a great man of the entire universe. You're too noble. To tell you the truth, in my 48 years of life, I only admire one person, and that's you. I've been looking up to you as a role model since I was young. You're the light in my life, the motivation to move forward, and the inspiration to grow up. After a series of compliments, Han Xiao could not help but smile appreciatively. He loved to hear such honest words. But soon, he put away his smile and waved his hand, signaling Luo Di to calm down. You don't have to be so grateful to me. To be honest, I'm only helping you because I'm interested in your mutation and want to study it. As for whether I can cure you, I can't guarantee. I understand. I have nothing else to repay you with. I'll do my best to cooperate with your research. Rhodey nodded. Han Xiao nodded with satisfaction. There was no free lunch in the world. It was convenient for Rhodey to know that. If Rhodey were to ask for help and act like he was paranoid, Han Xiao might use a more forceful method and not cooperate unless he used violence. He stood up and walked around Luo Di, sizing him up from head to toe. Suddenly, he had a thought. That's right, I've already completed the information entanglement step with him. It should be fine to stab him now. With this thought, Han Xiao immediately took action. He raised his finger, and a nanoparticle was compressed and formed into a thin metal needle. He flipped his wrist and carefully stabbed it into Rhodey's arm. The strength he used was similar to an ordinary person picking up an ant with their fingers, afraid that the ant would be crushed to death if they used too much strength. The thin needle retracted as soon as it touched him. Han Xiao immediately looked to the interface. As expected, damage was dealt. The combat information appeared, and Rhodey's attributes were displayed. The target was just an ordinary person. His interface was extremely clean, and all of his abilities were within the range of an ordinary person. There were only a few lines of words, which was completely different from the interface of a super. Only one anomaly caught Han Zhao's attention. First, Rhodey's status bar maintained a special status, which was exactly the same as the mission name. Destiny's Child Subbody Transformation. The primal Esper ability entity Destiny's Child has set off an information form disturbance, randomly creating all kinds of subbodies in the entire universe. You are one of the chosen random numbers. A mutation will occur in your body. The characteristics of the information form will gradually appear in your body, and you will randomly be born with some of the related abilities of Destiny's Child. During the transformation process, not only will your body change, but your personality will also gradually change. When this process is over, you may lose most of your desires and emotions. You may lose your memories. You may believe in a false life experience. A brand new personality and a brand new self will be born in your body. Current transformation progress, 37. 1% Han Zhao's eyes widened as he caught the key information. Destiny's Child is a primal Esper ability entity, randomly creating subbodies in the entire universe. This was a little unexpected. On the super high-risk Esper ability list, there was no Destiny's Child. In his previous life, the players also did not discover any related information. Could this be a primal Esper ability that had not been discovered or publicized? Looking at the introduction on the interface, Han Zhao's imagination ran wild. If Destiny's Child has such a mechanism, the one in the germinal organization in version 1.0 should only be a subbody and not a primal Esper ability entity. Rhodey hasn't completely transformed yet. Once he becomes a complete Destiny's Child subbody, his personality will be replaced, and it might be another form of death. Han Zhao was deep in thought. Although he knew that the true face of Destiny's Child was a primal Esper ability entity, there were still many mysteries. Perhaps Ah Hun and Ah Sheng, who were also primal Esper ability entities, had information on this. Han Zhao told them to wait in the room while he went to another room, closed the door, opened the secondary dimensional army box, and took out the mysterious energy host. He also sent a long-distance message to Aurora and added the holy light particle into the chat channel. Black Star, why are you looking for us? Let's chat more. The primal chaos mysterious energy was very happy. He did not have a host and was almost bored to death in a metal carrier without a soul. I have something to ask you guys, Han Zhao said with a deep voice. Do you guys know a primal Esper ability entity called Destiny's Child? Considering the different names, Han Zhao specifically repeated some of the characteristics of Destiny's Child, which were all inferred from the information on the interface. Hearing this, the primal chaos mysterious energy and the holy light particle suddenly fell silent. After a while, they asked in confusion, "This guy? I think I've seen him before. Strange, did I sleep too much? I vaguely remember that I know him, but I just can't remember." This feeling was like suddenly realizing that someone looked very familiar, but they just could not remember who he was. Han Zhao narrowed his eyes and guessed. According to the intelligence, Destiny's Child had a lot to do with information forms. Maybe it's because of this that the two of you can't remember. The two of them tried their best to recall, hesitated, and said, "Maybe you're right. We can't remember any more information about it. We only remember that in our impression, there is a primal Esper ability entity that can switch between a physical form and a high-dimensional information form. It has the ability to predict the future and interfere with reality. Maybe this is the Destiny's Child you mentioned. It seems like I can't get any more information from them." Han Zhao's eyes moved, and he changed the topic. Then, do you guys know Soul Flame? It's also a primal Esper ability entity. I know this one. The primal chaos mysterious energy quickly answered, afraid that the holy light particle would take away the chance to talk. This guy comes and goes like a shadow. I haven't seen it many times. The last time I heard about it was during the exploration era. It seemed to have chosen a primordial one as its host, and then disappeared for many years. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. According to Aesop's intelligence, Oathkeeper was very likely the host of Soul Flame. He might even be the primordial one that the primal chaos mysterious energy was talking about. As long as he knew his identity, he would be able to see through Oathkeeper's true identity. Do you still remember who that primordial one is? Han Shao quickly asked. I only remember his nickname. I think it's Soul Emperor, which means Emperor of Souls. He's a powerful psychic esper, but he seems to have died in battle. Wow, this nickname sounds like it's not to be messed with. Han Shao noted it down and planned to ask for internal information from the dynasty when he returned to investigate the life of this Soul Emperor. As for something as mysterious as Destiny's Child, the dynasty might not have records of it. Since Destiny's Child is a primordial esper ability entity, and the Holy Covenant is an expert on primordial esper abilities, maybe it's not a bad choice to ask them. Han Shao nodded and made up his mind. After completing the deal with the Holy Covenant, he would ask Oathkeeper about the origin of Destiny's Child. Maybe he could get some information from the Holy Covenant. Suddenly, he had a guess. Speaking of which, could Destiny's Child be in the hands of the Holy Covenant? I think there's a chance, but it's not high. Destiny's Child can create disturbances, so it should be free, not like it's being taken in. Hell, why worry so much? I won't lose anything by asking anyway. Han Shao curled his lips. As for whether Oathkeeper could accept it or not, I think his mental fortitude should be pretty strong. After asking all the questions, just as Han Shao was about to turn off the communication, he suddenly thought of something and said to the holy light particle, "Oh, right. I'm going to cut off a small piece of your body and use it to make a deal with someone else. I'm letting you know so that you can be mentally prepared." The holy light particle's light cluster froze in midair. It was like a bolt out of the blue. The primal chaos mysterious energy was stunned for a moment before laughing out loud in schadenfreude. Who told you to laugh at me? You can't escape the same fate, ha ha. The holy light particle was speechless. So tired. I feel like I won't love again. P.S. I've chased this out. I still have to cook porridge and send it to the hospital later. I've cracked _ smiley face angle _. Chapter 1139. Han Shao digested the information for a while before opening the door and returning to the interrogation room. Aesop, Harrison, and Rhodey all looked at him. Your Excellency Blackstar, Rhodey wanted to ask, but Han Shao raised his hand to stop him. I already know your basic situation. Follow me for the time being. I'll try my best to solve your problem. As for how to deal with Rhodey, Han Shao thought for a while. The current Rhodey was only a semi-finished product. He had not completed the transformation and could not control his own abilities. Perhaps only after the complete transformation could he become the germinal organization's child of destiny and have a powerful gift of prediction. However, once the transformation was completed, Rhodey's personality would mutate and be replaced by a new personality, which was equivalent to death in a sense. A stable and controllable diviner was far more useful than this half-baked one who fainted from time to time. However, since he had accepted the mission, he could not sit back and watch the transformation go smoothly. Therefore, Han Shao decided to do his best and find a way to stop Rhodey's transformation. If he could not stop it, he did not mind getting a new child of destiny. Given Rhodey's current state, it was necessary to control his range of action. Han Shao specifically asked Philip to open a new private laboratory above the spaceship. He asked Harrison to bring Rhodey there, lock him in a nourishment chamber, and inject him with a hypnotic agent to facilitate research. Rhodey had no choice but to hold on to his only hope and cooperate. After the two of them left, only Han Shao and Aesop were left in the room. They looked at each other. I saw you go out for a while. Did you find something? Aesop was curious. The source of this guy's mutation might be due to the influence of a special primal esper ability. Han Shao briefly explained some information about the Child of Destiny and his experience with the Germinal Organization. Child of Destiny? Never heard of it, Aesop mumbled. That's normal. I don't know much either. Aesop coughed and said thoughtfully, I don't know much about your past, but assuming that the Child of Destiny you met in the past was a random product of the Primal Arcana like Rhodey now, why would there be two spawns on planet Aquamarine? If it's really random in the universe, do you think there would be such a coincidence? What's this? I've seen even more coincidences. This thought flashed through Han Zhao's mind, but he didn't show it on his face. He echoed, "It is indeed a coincidence." According to this train of thought, since the mutation happened at the information form level, I feel that Blue Star might have something special in this regard, such as the condensation of a special fate line or something. I'm not talking nonsense. I've seen many people who were born with different fate lines. Halfway through a sentence, Aesop stopped and sized up Han Xiao thoughtfully. That's right. The Blue Star produced someone like you and another beyond grade A Hela. Your rise has caused the mother planet to become different. Perhaps this is the reason. Han Xiao wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. He just patted Aesop's shoulder. Smart people are so easy to fool. I didn't even have to use any force, and you've already convinced yourself. Thanks. If it weren't for your prophecy, I definitely wouldn't have discovered this. Jokes aside, Han Xiao was still quite grateful for Aesop's notice. You don't have to thank me. Floating Dragon and Blue Star are neighbors now. I'm just ensuring the safety of the living environment. Furthermore, among the people I know, prophecies are the most effective in your hands. I believe in your ability and character. Aesop waved his hand. Hearing this, Han Xiao could not help but feel like he was dreaming. In the past, Han Xiao was quite envious of Aesop's powerful connections. However, as he gradually rose, he had unknowingly become the most important person Aesop knew. Whenever there was a problem, Aesop would be the first to discuss it with him, making him feel reliable. As he spoke, Aesop could not help but sigh. I've lived for so long and can be considered to have seen a lot, but you're the most amazing person in my long life. I've never seen another person as miraculous as you. The first time I saw you, even though I felt that your future was limitless, I never thought that in just a few short decades, you would reach a height that countless people could only dream of. Perhaps history will forget me, but it will never forget you. We were just talking. Why did you suddenly start bragging? It's quite embarrassing. Han Xiao laughed and had a don't-stop expression on his face. Maybe I'm really getting old, and I'm getting more and more emotional. Aesop sighed and sincerely said, "All these years, it's all thanks to you for helping Floating Dragon." Seeing this, Han Xiao also stopped smiling and slowly said, "My achievements can't be separated from Floating Dragon's nurturing. If not for AIM's protection, I wouldn't have been so successful. Therefore, there's no need to thank me. What I gave Floating Dragon is what I should give in return." Just like in business, it was easier to develop with a backer than to start from scratch. When he was still weak, Floating Dragon had been of great help to him. Therefore, although his current position in the universe far exceeded Floating Dragon's, he still maintained respect for Floating Dragon's members, treated them as equals, and never stopped supporting them. Having the opportunity to support someone like you might be Floating Dragon's fortune. Aesop's expression was complicated. There was helplessness and relief. Ames is like my daughter, but you also know that all I can do is foresight. I don't have as much power as you guys. The current you can protect her better than I can. I've lived for many years, and I've never begged anyone. But today, I'm begging you to protect Ames. I'll leave her to you. I hope that even after hundreds or thousands of years, you can still remember what you said today. Then, he looked deeply at Han Xiao, pushed open the door, and walked out of the room. His slightly hunched back disappeared at the end of the corridor. Old man. Han Xiao watched as he left. He let out a sigh of relief. He understood Aesop's intention. Although Aesop was a long-lived species, he was old and did not have much combat power. Even if he knew how to foresee, there was a limit to what he could do. He was far from omnipotent. He had foreseen a storm that could happen in the future, and the disaster in the prophecy made him feel a long-lost worry. He was afraid that he did not have the ability to protect Ames, so he was willing to put down his face and privately ask Black Star to be the protector of Floating Dragon. In Aesop's eyes, only Black Star had the motivation and ability to protect Ames at the same time. This was the best candidate he could find. However, Ames would definitely not say these words, so Aesop knew that only he could say it, and he had to say it. This was why the old man changed his usual behavior and took the initiative to ask for cooperation. He was shocked by his own prophecy. This old man suppressed his nature of seeking excitement and stayed in a boring place like Floating Dragon for decades. Although Ames grounded him in name, if Aesop wanted to leave, he would definitely have a way to leave. Now, because he's worried about Ames' future, he put down his face and came to beg me. Time will tell. Han Xiao smiled. In his previous life, Ames destroyed Floating Dragon in order to take revenge. From the looks of it now, Aesop deserved such treatment. However, with Han Xiao here this time, he would not let Floating Dragon repeat the same mistake. After sorting out his emotions, Han Xiao returned to his office and summoned Philip. He still remembered to check the owner of Soul Flame, so he used his authority to retrieve the information of that Primordial One's Soul Emperor from the Dynasty's database and quickly browsed through it. Soul Emperor's real name was Rovel Sisak. He also had nicknames like Soul Monarch and Secret Spirit Master. He was also one of the Primordial Ones. Before he became the owner of Soul Flame, he was already a powerful beyond grade, a psychic esper. This person was born in an advanced civilization and was a tyrant during the exploration era. At that time, the beyond grade had just been born. Compared to other types of abilities, psychic esper abilities that had broken through the calamity level were more difficult to deal with. The soul barrier that had not been upgraded could not stop Soul Emperor. He could easily penetrate the shields and armor to kill or control the crew. Very soon, he made a name for himself in the Exploration Era War. After obtaining the Soul Flame, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. With his powerful personal abilities, he had conquered many cities for his own civilization and won many local battles. He had made great contributions countless times and received innumerable awards and honors. He was regarded as a hero and protector by the entire civilization. However, as the advanced civilizations began to focus on researching beyond grade, as the short era where the primordial ones were unparalleled passed very quickly. The battles became more difficult, and beyond grade has started to die. Soul Emperor was no exception. Although his performance was still strong, and he was still a powerful unit in the Galactic War, because he would be targeted every time he appeared, it was very difficult for him to play the same role as before. He could not rely on himself to change the situation of the war. Coupled with the fact that his civilization kept losing in other battlefronts, the overall strategy of the civilization was seriously affected. The advantageous situation was gradually eroded by the enemy. Therefore, Soul Emperor's combat style gradually became more aggressive. Sometimes, even if he was injured, he would still try to turn the situation around. Although it was not enough, one could see his vision and loyalty to contribute to the civilization. The primordial ones of the past were different from the current beyond grade, as many of them did not have the thought of being independent. In the Exploration Era War, the fate of an individual and the fate of a civilization were almost tied together. In the tireless battles, the turning point soon arrived. Soul Emperor's civilization and the many enemies used two-star systems as the main battleground. They invested a huge amount of troops and started a decisive battle. Countless fleets tore at each other on one battlefront after another. The situation of the battle changed rapidly. At the most heated stage, this civilization had to make a choice. On one hand, Soul Emperor was targeted and was heavily surrounded. He was exhausted from the battle and urgently needed reinforcements. On the other hand, an extremely important battlefront was in danger and also needed reinforcements. If this battlefront collapsed, it would cause a chain reaction that could cause the entire battle to slide into the abyss of failure. On the other hand, if they defended this battlefront, they would gain a huge strategic advantage and have a much higher chance of winning. It was also because of this reason that the enemy was constantly sending reinforcements to this battlefront. Most of the troops of this civilization had already been invested in the battlefront, leaving only a small number of rapid reaction fleets that could attack. It was known that if the reinforcements were evenly distributed, there would be a chance of rescuing Soul Emperor, but they would definitely not be able to defend the important battlefront. This was when the choice came how to distribute the troops, which side to focus on. and how to choose. For this civilization, this choice did not seem difficult at all. They gave up on Soul Emperor and chose to protect the overall situation, sending all the reinforcements to the important battlefront. The final result was just as they thought. They successfully defended the battlefront, revived the stalemate, and gradually defeated the enemy. In the end, they won this battle. Of course, the Spirit Emperor had sacrificed himself. The civilization claimed that the Spirit Emperor's sacrifice was the key to their victory. Therefore, the entire country mourned for him and worshipped him. They also hosted his funeral with the highest standard ceremony and awarded him the Valverde Genta Medal, which represented the highest honor of the civilization. A monument to the Spirit Emperor was built on the mother planet to remember him. However, in the ever-changing exploration-era war, there was no lack of enemies. The key victory of this civilization could not always be their protective talisman. In the end, this civilization did not become the winner of the exploration era and was destroyed by a stronger civilization. They were almost wiped out and became the losers of elimination. These are the general details of Soul Emperor's life. The file had already marked died in battle. It was a long time ago, and the exploration era was a time of war. The database of the three universal civilizations only had general information about Soul Emperor. There was no detailed information. As Soul Emperor's civilization perished, a lot of information about him was buried by history. After reading the information, Han Xiao fell into deep thought. He was already used to what happened to Soul Emperor and was only interested in the whereabouts of Soul Flame. Spirit Emperor is the last known owner of Soul Flame. Could this guy be Oathkeeper? Either Soul Emperor faked his death, or Oathkeeper was someone else who took Soul Flame from Soul Emperor. Therefore, there's a chance that he's one of the enemy beyond grade, as who participated in that battle. But there's also a chance that he picked up some scraps. This time, Han Xiao suddenly thought of the primordial ones who were resurrected in his previous life. Soul Emperor did not seem to be among them. His eyes sparkled. Looks like the possibility of Soul Emperor faking his death is not small. Han Xiaoxing pondered. Many primordial ones were resurrected in his previous life. If he waited until the calamity of the supers appeared, he might be able to find someone who knew. However, at this time, Han Xiao suddenly thought of something and was stunned. Wait a minute. Someone who knew was not just the primordial ones who were resurrected by the Holy Covenant. The underworld dimension that Hela inherited seemed to have the primordial hero spirits as well. That's amazing. Han Xiao's eyes widened. Every sip and every peck could be predetermined? Or could it be that collecting the luck glow owners could really improve the overall luck of the universe? Recommended. The 3,000 Immortals Who Are Older Than You Are. The title of this book gives off the feeling of being raised by a rich woman. I don't know if there's anyone who likes this book, but if you're interested, please read it. Chapter 1140. The underworld dimension has a lot of strong people from the exploration era. Not only the primordial ones, but there are also supers from various races. There are many calamity-grade supers, and they're all antiques. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. This group of people was not only useful as a combat force, but they were also witnesses of various periods of the exploration era. They were also reliable sources of first-hand information and knew many ancient secrets. Aurora can only create life shells for these hero spirits when she reaches the beyond Grade A realm. Speaking of which, the underworld dimension is a bit like the indestructible Mecha Empire. Although I can't summon the underworld now, it shouldn't be a problem to communicate with their souls. I wonder how much of the underworld Hela has recovered. Han Xiao still remembered that he had an underworld dimension mission. When the underworld was fully recovered, he would receive Onisilu's gratitude and a mark of the underworld, becoming the third authority dog after the two sisters. I'll find a time to ask Hela and see if I'm right. Now that Hela had gone to the secondary dimensions, communication was not convenient. However, she should be back at the next Beyond Grade A meeting, so Han Xiao planned to ask her then. It was not long before the next meeting of the Development Union, so he did not need to go to the secondary dimensions to look for her. Soul Emperor faked his death, and he suspected that this was Oathkeeper's true identity. He had not decided if he should test him the next time they met. Beep beep. This time, Harrison sent a message, saying that Rhodey had been properly settled. Got it. Han Xiaoxin was quite happy. My intuition was right. This time, I did have a pleasant surprise when I returned to Blue Star. I discovered the secret of Destiny's Child, obtained a half-transformed subbody, and even obtained some key information from Aesop. However, Aesop's prophecy also made him feel pressured. It was as if he could see that a storm was brewing in the future. The higher the level of contact, the more secrets he knew, the more he could feel the turmoil and chaos hidden under the stable and prosperous surface of the explored universe. Han Xiao crossed his hands over his nose and pondered. I have to find a way to find out how the Red Empire's research on the World Tree Civilization's wormhole coordinates is going. After spending a few days as a guest on Floating Dragon Island and paying a visit to Bennett, Han Xiao took the fleet and set off again, heading toward the flickering world. On the dock, Ames stood at the edge of the track. The exhaust flames spurting out from the spaceship thrusters made her black dress dance in the wind like a rolling black fog. She led the Floating Dragon officers and watched as the Black Star fleet left the spaceport in an orderly formation. She slowly accelerated, turned into streams of light, and disappeared into the depths of space, out of sight. He left again. Ames retracted her gaze and exhaled softly. She lowered her head and looked at the data storage device in her hand. This was a gift from Han Xiao before he left. It stored an ultimate Esper knowledge. She turned around and saw that Jenny's face was ashen. She was clutching a tube of medicine in her hand, which was also a gift from Han Xiao. Why you look so pale? What did he give you? Ames was curious. Nothing. Jenny's facial muscles tightened, and she revealed a ferocious smile. She hid the hair growth magic potion behind her back. Aesop stroked his beard, smiled, and said, Black Star gave me a gift as well. I'm starting to like him more and more. Beside him, 8 fist-sized floating weapons danced in the air. This was a product that Han Xiao had personally created. It was called Explorer, Multi-Purpose Life Protection Array. It had a full set of functions such as combat, defense, enhancement, life support, concealment, healing, hyperdrive, radiation shielding, and harsh environment isolation. It was especially suitable for solo explorers. With such a set of equipment, it was equivalent to having a guard team, a logistics team, and a galactic vehicle with them. Even an ordinary person would be able to survive in a grade B environment for a long time. They would also be able to resist a calamity grade super for a short while and have a chance to escape unscathed. As long as it was used properly, this set of equipment was enough to wipe out an ordinary surface civilization. It was not cheap, and the effect was very strong. Han Xiao had given Aesop 10 sets. Ames blinked and suddenly said, I heard that you privately asked Black Star to protect me? Aesop was stunned. He grabbed his beard and said, Who told you that? Who else could it be? Ames raised her brows. TSK, Black Star, this guy, doesn't know how to keep his secret from me. Aesop had a headache and nodded helplessly. There is such a thing. I foresee that the era will change drastically. My ability is limited. Only Black Star has the ability. Before he finished, Ames interrupted him and said with a slightly heavier tone, I'm a beyond grade A, and I can protect myself. Next time, before you consider for me, discuss it with me first. I don't like others making decisions for me. All right, consider my wishful thinking. Aesop raised his hands, indicating that he did not want to argue. Seeing this, Ames nodded. She suddenly paused, smiled, and said softly, However, I still have to thank you. But thank you anyway. I appreciate your kindness. She knew that Han Xiao took the initiative to say this because he did not want Aesop's intentions to be unknown. Furthermore, this matter could only be said by Han Xiao. It was impossible for Aesop to take the initiative to ask Ames for the credit. He was not such a person. Aesop also understood Han Xiao's intentions. His complaints immediately disappeared, and he felt a little touched. His impression of Han Xiao went up a level. Black Star actually considered my relationship with Ames. as expected of a talent who built such a huge foundation. This guy has life in his eyes. The fleet traveled for 10 days and finally entered the flickering world through a fast military stargate. On this day, the Beyond Grade A Association held a new round of regular meetings. A group of mechanics had missed many meetings because they stayed in the sealed ancient star desert to deal with the intelligent plague. Only now did Han Xiao and the others return. Development Union Headquarters, Planet Finn, Council Building. Han Xiao's remote projection landed outside the venue. He was wearing the Army Commander's black robe with golden edges. His muscular body made the robe look majestic. There was still some time before the official meeting, so not everyone had arrived. The remote projections gathered in 2s and 3s outside the venue, chatting casually. One of the original intentions of the Development Union was to build a platform for all the Beyond Grade as to facilitate communication. Other than the official meeting, private communication was equally important. As soon as he appeared, the venue fell silent. Everyone looked over with different gazes, and the atmosphere was a little strange. At this time, the old dragon Milizaus led some of the dynasty's allies over and shouted loudly, "Yo, Blackstar, you're finally back." Han Xiao turned around, smiled, and greeted Baoni, Yining, and the rest of his acquaintances. After exchanging greetings, Milizaus praised, "What you did in the ancient star desert really impressed me. It's a pity that I'm not a mechanic and couldn't witness it with my own eyes." "That's right. It's such a pity that we couldn't participate in such a historic moment." Viru had a regretful expression. "If I was there, you wouldn't have fought alone. I would have definitely had a part in fighting Manison," Baoni said. Lotus Swordsman did not show any mercy and coldly said, "Forget it. If you were there, you would have been the first to die. You would have been a burden just like Kohler." "Kohler, why do you have to drag me into this? I didn't even say anything. It's just a small matter, not worth mentioning. Keep a low profile." Hearing everyone's praises, Han Xiao waved his hands humbly. The aftermath of destroying the virus core made many allies see that Black Star's position had risen again, and he had gained more trust from the 3 universal civilizations. Thus, they all came to support him. This time, Milizaus looked around and said in a low voice, "Everyone thinks that you and Manison have fallen out. The president and the vice president don't see eye to eye, so there will definitely be different paths. The atmosphere in the association is very sensitive right now. No wonder everyone looked at me strangely just now." Han Xiao smiled and was not surprised. "Today is the first time you and Manison have attended a meeting together after falling out, so most people are watching and waiting to see a good show." Han Xiao shook his head and said, "Don't worry. The purpose of the Development Union is to mediate the conflicts between Beyond Grade As. Manison won't openly go against the rules, or else the foundation of the association will be damaged. This is something he can't accept. Thus, he has to put on an act. At most, he'll make things difficult for me verbally, but it's impossible for him to use the association's power to cause trouble. As for me, I don't need to provoke him. After all, I've even taken away the foundation of the Mecha Empire. It's not like I'm the one at a disadvantage." Han Xiaoxin chuckled and did not say the second half of the sentence. Milizaus did not deny it, and slowly said, "Yes, that's for the best. Don't provoke him." In fact, after Manison revealed his intentions, there aren't many people in the association who support him anymore. His actions this time are too risky, and many people don't agree with it. Once he succeeds, we'll all be implicated by him and be bound by a certain standpoint. Thus, there are many people who are resentful toward Manison. On the contrary, there are many Beyond Grade A members who support your actions. Most of them use the Development Union to form a group, hoping to obtain higher security and more benefits. However, to go against the 3 universal civilizations because of this, that's too unrealistic. Not many people are willing to take such a risk. Thus, you stopped Manison and established a closer relationship with the 3 universal civilizations. Many people are grateful to you, agree with you, and spontaneously stand on your side. Hearing this, Han Xiao looked around and exchanged glances with the members around him. He saw the goodwill in many people's eyes. As expected," Han Xiao responded. He had already thought through these twists and turns before. At this moment, a shout filled with anger suddenly sounded from his side. "Blackstar, you're such a bastard." Everyone looked over curiously and saw Secret Master walking over with large strides. His face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, and he looked like he was blaming Han Xiao. "What did I do to you?" Han Xiao was confused. "You're still playing dumb." Secret Master was furious. "You attacked my black market forces in the ancient Star Desert while the star field was sealed. I was following orders to prevent the virus from leaking." Han Xiao blinked. "Guess if I believe you or not." Secret Master's face was ashen. After the three universal civilizations removed the seal, he realized that his forces in the ancient Star Desert had been messed up by Han Xiao. He almost vomited blood. This feeling was like someone had come to his house to cause trouble and even lock the door. As the victim, he only realized it after his house was ransacked. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. "You've really misunderstood me," Han Xiao said confidently. "The three universal civilizations wanted me to control the black market channels and prevent the virus from spreading on a large scale. Desperate times call for desperate measures, so I had no choice but to use a thunderous method. Furthermore, now that the intelligent plague has been dealt with, I've already left." It was the three universal civilizations who tried to continue controlling the black market in the ancient Star Desert. For the safety of the universe, I took the initiative to take on such an offensive job. Even if I didn't do it, someone else would. Don't you think so? The thickest thing I've ever seen is your face. Secret Master clenched his teeth, full of resentment. He did not really want to blame Han Xiao. He knew that the three universal civilizations would not compromise in the face of a disaster. He could only blame himself for being unlucky. The location of the virus outbreak just had to be the ancient Star Desert. Secret Master also realized that ever since he interacted with Blackstar, it was as if he had been tainted with bad luck. "I better stay away from Blackstar in the future, lest he implicates me when he gets struck by lightning." Just as everyone was chatting, another remote projection descended. It was Manison, who was in the middle of a storm. Buzz. All of a sudden, the entire place fell silent. Everyone's gazes gathered, shifting between Manison and Han Xiao. Their eyes were filled with all kinds of emotions. The only thing these gazes had in common was the playfulness and mockery of watching a good show. Manison turned around, looking straight into Han Xiao's eyes calmly. Their gazes collided in midair. Manison's face was calm, as if the conflict between the two of them had never happened. He slowly said, "We meet again, Blackstar. What a coincidence, Mecha Empire. I thought you would be so ashamed that you would be absent today." Han Xiao chuckled and teased. At this moment, he felt like he was more of a villain than Manison. On the side, Milizaus rubbed the dragon horns on his head in confusion. "Didn't we agree not to provoke the Mecha Empire? Did you treat my words like farts? P.S. I've been a little busy recently. Continue to promote my book, Daddy Nanny's Otherworld Restaurant. Author, Light Words of Jianghu. Very good results. Introduction. Here, elves and dwarves have to share tables. Orcs are forbidden from making noise. Dragons can only sit in the small square in front of the restaurant, and demons even have to bring their own special stools. However, such a strange restaurant has a long line in front of the door every day. Elves eat skewers without caring about their manners. Dragons sit in front of the hot pot with a colander, and demons eat cute dumplings. Chapter 1141. Manison was not angry. He sized Han Xiao up and nodded. "You're quite humorous. I'm the president of the Development Union. Even if you're absent, I won't be absent. What you're doing as the president is not right. Everyone supports you, not for you to gamble with everyone's interests." Han Xiao stood with his arms crossed and clicked his tongue. Previously, Han Xiao had praised the old dragon to the skies, but the moment they met, he had completely thrown away the idea of not provoking the Mecha Empire. Now, whenever he saw Manison, he would want to stroke the tiger's whiskers. Knowing the attitude of the association, he deliberately squeezed Manison to provoke dissatisfaction in the hearts of many people present. The results were great, and many people looked at Madison with even more unfriendly eyes. They were all big shots, and no one was willing to let others make decisions for them. The two of them had already drawn a clear line and resumed their competitive relationship. Damaging the other's reputation was secondary, and the main point was his own bad taste. Sigh, it seemed like it was the other way around. Radiance's allies present were the most embarrassed. Now, Madison was still Radiance's ally in name, but they could not and did not want to speak from the standpoint of the Mecha Empire. Those who supported Madison before were more or less unnatural now. Madison ignored the gazes of the people around him and calmly said, "Through this incident, I've seen through you. Our original intention of establishing the association was to gain more speaking rights and not be controlled by the advanced civilizations. However, although you say you're thinking for the beyond grade, as you're actually just a lackey of the three universal civilizations. Everything I've done is for the sake of the beyond grade, as, of course, it's impossible not to take the risk. Unfortunately, you want to please the three universal civilizations, but you don't want to lose your reputation and credibility among the beyond grade as, so you chose to destroy our hope. In my eyes, it's just a selfish act of speculation. I won't have any more hope for you." Yo, who would have thought that the insufferably arrogant Mecha Empire would have moments of sophistry? As expected of someone who has lived long enough to know so much. Even your posture of twisting the truth is so proficient. Han Xiao did not take it seriously and said, "Unfortunately, justice is in the hearts of the people. Your slander of me is not valid. What the truth is, everyone has their own opinion. As the vice president, I have the obligation to stop you from leading everyone to the dark side." "Huh, do you really think you're a hero just because you put on the public opinion that the three universal civilizations created for you? You're speaking eloquently now, but I'm very curious. Will you have the face to attend the awards ceremony for the entire universe in a while? Why not? If not for me, would the three universal civilizations have discovered the virus so early? How could they develop an antivirus program so quickly? Without me, the intelligent plague would still be spreading. In terms of contributions, I'm not much less than you, but the three universal civilizations didn't mention it at all. Their intentions are obvious. As soon as the conversation started, the two of them were at each other's throats. They're arguing. The beyond grade as watched from the side excitedly, wishing they could bring a small stool over to sit and watch the show. After a few words, Madison looked around and coldly said, "I'm not here today to quarrel with you today. The purpose of the association is to mediate the conflicts between beyond grade as the president, I need to set an example, so you can rest assured. Although we have our differences, I won't do anything to you. You make it sound so nice, but I think you're too busy dealing with the suppression of the three universal civilizations to continue provoking a strong enemy like me," Han Xiao joked. Madison narrowed his eyes and slowly said, "You seem to have taken the result of a tie seriously. As for what exactly happened, we both know very well in our hearts, but you seem to have an illusion. Do you really think you're on par with me? That's the truth, not an illusion." Han Xiao chuckled and eagerly said, "If you're not convinced, I'll entertain you anytime." So far, he had drawn quite a lot of good things from Madison, even his core exclusive talents. He had already tasted the sweetness of it and wished he could do it a few more times with Madison. The purpose of the development union is to mediate the conflicts between beyond grade as. I won't lower myself to your level." Madison was expressionless. He turned around and walked into the venue, too lazy to chat with Han Xiao anymore. Seeing this, Han Xiao secretly curled his lips. Old Madison really knows how to endure. If it was in the past, if I provoked him like this, he would definitely come over with a 40-kilometer-long machete to have a heart-to-heart talk with me. However, the Mecha Empire should be feeling very depressed. They clearly felt that they could defeat me, but they were forced into a tie by the three universal civilizations. They even had to patiently wait for the opportunity to get back at me, watching their prestige weaken. Not only did I obtain his core exclusive talent, but I also secretly obtained the incomplete map of the domino virus technology that he had been longing for. I even drew a new ability to restrain him. However, in Manison's heart, my combat strength is still the same as it was when we fought. If I fight with old Manison again, I'll definitely give him a surprise. While Han Xiao was secretly laughing, Kasui walked over and said, "It's been a long time since I saw you lose." "I haven't seen Manison suffer in a long time. You're one of the few guys who can make him suffer." Han Xiao turned to look at him and said in surprise, "I thought you had a good relationship with Manison, but you seem to be quite happy." Kasui narrowed his eyes and smiled. "Hee, don't misunderstand. Manison and I have known each other for many years. We're indeed good friends, but he's him and I'm me. To be honest, I don't agree with his actions either. Even if you didn't stop him, I would have drawn a clear line with him after this." Han Xiao nodded. "I just happened to be there. If not for this, the Mecha Empire and I might still be friends. Unfortunately, we walk different paths. I only hope this matter doesn't affect our friendship." "Don't worry. The conflict between you and him won't affect our relationship. I don't mind the difference in ideals because everyone has something they want. However, although Manison's actions are criticized, he's right about one thing. The three universal civilizations are only using you to attack him. When the day comes when he's no longer useful, maybe what he has today will be your tomorrow. I know what I'm doing. You don't have to worry about this." While the two of them were talking, a third voice interrupted them with a faint smile on his face. "So, when you're being used by an advanced civilization, you have to realize the benefits as soon as possible. This is my experience." The two of them turned around and saw that Sorokin had also come over. With his signature fake smile, he joined the conversation and gave a simple salute to the two shareholders. "Oh, it's you." Han Xiao glanced at him. "What do you have in mind?" "Your Excellency Black Star must be joking. I'm just an ordinary beyond grade A. How can I participate in such a topic? I don't have any good ideas. I'm just giving some suggestions from the perspective of a businessman, hoping to provide Your Excellency Black Star with some inspiration to deal with the current situation," Sorokin said enthusiastically. "Humph! One who is unaccountably solicitous is hiding evil intentions." Han Xiao crossed his arms in front of his chest and pretended to size him up. "You don't look like you're just here for a chat. Is there something wrong?" "Ha! Nothing can be hidden from Your Excellency Black Star's eyes." Sorokin smiled. "I hope to discuss cooperation with you." Han Xiao only understood what Sorokin meant after listening to him. He secretly sighed at how shameless this person was. He had become the special consultant of the three universal civilizations and had the support of the three civilizations. Sorokin saw a business opportunity and wanted to look for him, this shareholder, to have a deeper cooperation. This shareholder position was forced by Han Xiao. Sorokin was originally unwilling, but seeing that there was profit to be gained, he did not hesitate to put down his pride and shamelessly came to discuss cooperation. Furthermore, the grudge between the two of them had not been settled yet he could act as if nothing had happened. His face had probably already left home on a spaceship. In the past few months, Han Xiao had been busy dealing with the intelligent plague, while Sorokin had been dealing with the dissatisfaction of the three universal civilizations. He had put in a lot of effort and finally settled the impact of the matter. Not only that, Sorokin had also shown that he was in line with the three universal civilizations' position through some fancy operations. He had also acted as a broker, sucking up to some of the officials with real power in Radiance and Ethereal. He had also used his seat as a director in the association to form new interests. Han Xiao suddenly thought of something. "By the way, Manison is also a shareholder of the Wireless Financial Group. What he does should affect you, right? Can the three universal civilizations allow him to continue being a shareholder of the financial group?" "It does affect me, but that won't stop me from continuing to work with him. The regular dividends won't be stopped either. The three universal civilizations allow it. First, I'm a private and legal financial group, so I have the right to freely appoint personnel. Second, Sorokin smiled and did not say anything, throwing a you-know-what-I-mean look at him. Han Xiao immediately understood. No wonder the three universal civilizations did not mind the cooperation between them. They were using the Limitless Financial Group as a channel to obtain information about the activities of the Mecha Empire. This was one of the conditions that Sorokin had to suck up to the three universal civilizations. Naturally, he did not want to work with Sorokin too deeply, so he gave a perfunctory answer to Sorokin's coaxing and pestering. After chatting for a while, it was finally time for the meeting. They entered the venue one after another, found their seats, and sat down. Han Xiao did not argue with Manison anymore. The two of them held the meeting according to the topics they had decided on, dealing with the matters one by one like normal meetings. However, although the two of them were doing their own things, the atmosphere in the venue was still strange. After the incident outside the venue, most people had a knot in their hearts, and it was difficult for them to return to normal. Very soon, it was time for the last topic. Manison looked around and said with a deep voice, "Because of the sudden outbreak of the intelligent plague, the battle between the three universal civilizations and the Supercluster Alliance was delayed for more than half a year. Now that the disaster has been resolved, the two sides will start fighting very soon. The Beyond Grade A Association needs to choose a side. As you all know, the three universal civilizations have been keeping the ultimate knowledge a secret. Their condition is for us to deal with the Supercluster Alliance. I don't plan to agree, so I suggest we stick to our original position and stay out of it, not participating in the battle between the advanced civilizations." Everyone nodded. Although they were dissatisfied with Manison, this was the consensus of most people, so there was no problem with it. As for the direct members of the three universal civilizations, they usually would not express their opinions at such times. After all, there was no point in doing so. However, this time, Manison turned to look at Han Xiao and suddenly said, "Vice President, what do you think?" Han Xiao's eyes flashed, and he pondered. He realized the intentions of the Mecha Empire. He was now at the center of public opinion. The three universal civilizations had put him on a pedestal, hoping that he would become their spokesperson in the development union. Not only did they want him to compete with Manison, but they also wanted him to speak up for them in the association. However, one of the original intentions of the association was to help the Beyond Grade as break free from the camp restrictions set by the advanced civilizations and not be used as tools to kill each other. On this issue, Han Xiao realized that there would be negative effects no matter which side he chose. Sticking to the consensus of everyone was not a problem on the association side. Although the three universal civilizations were not surprised, they would more or less feel disappointed, which would affect their support. The other allies could choose this way because they were the majority, but his identity was the role model. The same action would have different effects. If he spoke up for the three universal civilizations and instigated everyone to deal with the Supercluster Alliance together, the result would be worse. He would appear to be completely on the side of the three universal civilizations and really become the lackey of the Mecha Empire, which would definitely cause dissatisfaction. Furthermore, the path he represented would change because of this. It would no longer be a peaceful coexistence, but a fawning relationship. It would go against the original intention and return to the original path. Han Xiao looked up and saw that everyone's eyes, including the direct members of the three universal civilizations, were focused on him. They clearly understood this and were waiting for his response. Manison's question wasn't a ploy. It was just an honest attempt to borrow the enemy's strength. Of course, I agree with everyone's consensus. This is the reason we're gathered together. However, I want to deal with one of the supercluster civilizations, so I have some personal grudges. Han Xiao spoke calmly. He was very realistic, so he naturally would not stand on the wrong side at a time like this. When the three universal civilizations publicly supported him, Han Xiao knew that he would encounter this hurdle sooner or later. He had to be tested by the other Beyond Grade as to ensure that he did not change his mind. Hearing his answer, everyone looked away with satisfaction. After discussing business, the regular meeting ended and the Beyond Grade as went offline one after another. Han Xiao did not leave immediately. He pulled Hella, who had been watching from the side, and found a room to close the door. "You're back." Hella sized Han Xiao up. "You seem to have lost weight. I should be the one saying that to you. How's the underworld?" Han Xiao smiled. "It's already stabilized and is slowly recovering. By the way, I have something to tell you. It's about the underworld." "What a coincidence. I also have something to ask you about the underworld, but you go first. Hela nodded. All right. Have you heard of the sanctum? Han Xiao was shocked and subconsciously covered his heart. At this moment, he suddenly understood how Oathkeeper felt. Author's note. Another year is about to pass. There will be a double event at the end of the year. Chapter 1142. What did you find out about the sanctums? Han Xiao was surprised. The underworld told me. Hela briefly repeated Onisilu's words. Seeing Han Xiao's reaction, she could not help but snort. So, you already knew about the sanctums, but you didn't tell me. Ahem, that's because I didn't know everything. I was still investigating in private. Han Xiao coughed dryly, his brain working quickly. Hela's news gave him a pleasant surprise. He originally only wanted to ask about Soul Emperor from the underworld hero spirits, but he did not expect to get new information about the sanctums. According to Hela, someone had invited the two sisters to participate in the operation against the sanctums. This meant that some primordial ones had more information about the sanctums, but the two sisters did not participate. Later on, for some reason, there seemed to be a gap in the information about the sanctums, and fewer people knew about it. Furthermore, Han Xiao also learned an important piece of information from Hela, which was that one of the functions of the sanctums was to revive the dead. This was the first function of the sanctums that he knew, and he finally uncovered a corner of the mystery. Holy Covenant Organization, revived primordial ones, sanctums. Han Xiaoxin finally felt that there was a thread that connected everything. No wonder Oathkeeper behaved like that. He did not connect the two before, because he did not know the specific functions of the sanctums. Now, he finally had a clearer understanding of the Holy Covenant Organization, no longer limited to superficial knowledge. One of the rewards of my Primal Esper Ability Collector Milestone mission is the Third Sanctum Ability Fragment. The two are somehow related, so the real goal of the Holy Covenant Organization to collect Primal Esper abilities is to open the sanctums and revive the strong. Han Xiao thought. Seeing that Han Xiao was deep in thought, Hela frowned and asked, "Is this information useful to you?" "Yes, very useful." Han Xiao came back to his senses and said with relief, "Actually, I've been secretly investigating the sanctums. You've helped me a lot this time. Well done. As long as it helps you." Hela loosened her brows, nodded slightly, and asked, "Then what did you want to talk to me about?" "Haha, coincidentally, I also want to ask the underworld heroic spirits for information. Now, I have one more question to ask. Do you need me to awaken the heroic spirit immediately? Will this affect your development? As long as you need it, I don't care." Hela didn't hesitate at all. "What are you saying? The underworld is your inheritance. Don't just think about me." Han Xiao shook his head and said helplessly, "Let's not be in a hurry. Let's wait until you restore the underworld." Now, Hela was like a jungler. He had the advantage in the lane. Han Xiao did not intend to delay Hela's development. It would not be too late to call for help when needed. It's up to you. In short, just let me know when you need me. I'll help you at any time, Hela said faintly. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Han Xiao nodded, changed the topic, and said with a smile, "By the way, I brought you a gift this time. You should like it." Hela's eyes sparkled. "What is it?" "I've reached an agreement with the 3 universal civilizations. I can exchange 3 Esper ultimate knowledges for you. I brought you one this time. I'll get Philip to send it to you later." "Okay." Hela's lips curled up, revealing a slight smile. She was very satisfied with this gift, and she was even more satisfied that Han Xiao remembered her performance when he went on a business trip. After chatting for a while, Han Xiao went offline. Deactivating the remote projection, his vision returned to his original body, which was in the command room of the flagship. At this time, the fleet was advancing in the Dawnstar cluster. It was estimated that they would arrive at the edge of the Geru star cluster in a few days and return to the Army's territory from planet Blackgate. Standing by the huge, floor-to-ceiling window, Han Xiao looked at the starlight outside and recalled the situation during the meeting. Manison's risky move has caused him to lose the support of the association, and his connections have been affected. If nothing goes wrong, it'll be very difficult for him to be re-elected as the president in the election 50 years later. However, old Madison isn't the type to sit still and wait for death. He's busy dealing with the suppression of the three universal civilizations, but he won't be passive all the time. He'll definitely come up with other plans to improve his situation. With his philosophy, it's impossible for him to admit his mistake and return to the embrace of the Radiance. That will only cause suspicion, and he can't return to the past. He'll probably return to being an independent faction like in my previous life, but this time, it won't be limited to the calamity of the Super's version. He'll be completely marginalized. Even if he doesn't cancel the alliance on paper, the three universal civilizations won't be able to put him in an important position anymore. Han Xiao thought to himself. Madison's risky move had caused him to lose his backer. However, he was his backer, so he had the confidence to do so. If he had not taken the initiative to reveal the core of the virus to the three universal civilizations in order to reduce the damage caused by the disaster, Madison would not have taken a risk and would still be a comfortable ally. With this thought in mind, Han Xiao opened the interface and looked at Key of Adeptus Mechanicus. The impact of their fight was obvious. As the machinery believers on planet Magnetic Cloud vigorously spread the news of him being on par with Madison spread widely within the machinery faith, shaking a small portion of Madison's faith and attracting a new batch of believers for himself. After this period of time, the bonuses of Key of Adeptus Mechanicus had increased by quite a bit. The range of bonuses of this talent was very comprehensive, basically covering all aspects of the machinery ability. Currently, his machinery affinity had increased by around 600%. Other than luck, all his other attributes had increased by a few hundred points. At the same time, according to the inclination of his believers, his machinery ability in the armed, virtual, and many other fields had also received targeted bonuses. Other than that, his efficiency in manufacturing, repairing, and strengthening had also increased. The efficiency of different types of machinery in his hands had also increased. There were many aspects of this talent, and the range of bonuses was so comprehensive. The range of bonuses was still increasing as the number of believers increased. Han Xiao did not know if there would be an end to it. My personal bonuses are secondary. Han Xiao's eyes moved, and he chuckled. The increase in his Key of Adeptus Mechanicus meant that he had taken away a portion of the Mecha Empire's believers, causing the effect of Madison's talent to decrease. The longer I get, the shorter Madison gets. As this went on, the gap between Madison and everyone else gradually narrowed. I might not be the most profitable, but Madison is definitely the one who suffers the most losses. After a few days of sailing, Han Xiao finally led his fleet to the entrance of the army's territory, planet Blackgate. He planned to rest there for half a day before heading to the Black Star Cup. During the time that he was not around, the construction of the army's territory had progressed steadily, and the Black Star Cup had started smoothly. The members who had been eliminated in advance had returned to their posts, and the players who had been eliminated had returned to the fourth phase of the flickering world to continue occupying strongholds. Everything was in order. Now that most of the Black Star Cup matches had ended, there were only two important matches left. They were the Calamity Group's individual matches and the player group's four-way team matches. The former two contestants were the elite Black Star Guards under Han Xiao. One was the old bootlicker Hardaway, and the other was the new bootlicker Jotaina. Both of them had the strength of a beyond grade A seed and stood out among the many calamity grades in the army. Not counting Han Xiao and Hela, these two were already publicly recognized as the strongest in the army. Originally, Logi and Loathair both had the ability to compete for the position of Chief Calamity grade under the army, but Logi chose to give up during the audition. Due to his position, it was not convenient for Loathair to appear in public and did not participate in the Black Star Cup. As for the other Calamity grades, none of them were a match for Hardaway and Jotaina. Even Fu Ding and Nero, who had the luck glow, were the same. Luck was not enough to make up for the difference in strength. As for the players, they were Frenzied Sword's Rivervale Battle Team, King Admiral's Dynasty Battle Team, Rainy Kim's Thunderstorm Battle Team, and a group of solo players. Of the four biggest clubs in China, only one had made it to the finals. As the Black Star Cup was more flexible, it was much more random and dramatic than the official league. Usually, in a four-way battle, the biggest clubs would always be attacked by the other three. Thus, Long Sky, Temple of God, and Fried Eggplants with Fish were all defeated and taught a lesson by their passionate fans. At this moment, the fleet stopped at the public dock of Planet Blackgate. As soon as Han Xiao got off the spaceship, he saw Sylvia welcoming him at the dock. There was a cordon around them, and many curious passers-by were watching from the outside. There was no lack of army warriors and players among them. Not only that, there were even couplets above their heads. On the left was Iron Shoulders carry righteousness, and on the right was Compassion plays the role of the common people. What the F*** CK? Han Xiao was dumbfounded. He returned to the cabin, closed the door, and opened it again to make sure that he was not hallucinating. Did I open the door the wrong way? Just as he was in a daze, Sylvia walked up to him and bowed solemnly with a group of officers. She shouted the slogan loudly, as if she was afraid that no one could hear her. "Welcome back, Army Commander." Han Zhao's mouth twitched. He did not need to ask to know that this was definitely Sylvia's doing. It did not matter if others praised him, but it was too embarrassing for his subordinates to praise themselves. Furthermore, this was a public place, so he felt like he had turned into a celestial being. Why is there such a scene again? Han Xiao pulled Sylvia over and whispered into her ear, speechless. This is an essential welcome ceremony. Letting the entire army know that you have returned after your meritorious service will strengthen the members' sense of identity, Sylvia said seriously, but the crazy upturned corners of her mouth betrayed her inner thoughts. Han Xiao was a little annoyed. He quickly pulled Sylvia toward the dock exit and changed the topic. The Black Star Cup is finally coming to an end. How's the preparation for the closing ceremony? Now that they were talking about business, Sylvia stopped smiling and said, "It's all arranged. When the time comes, we'll need you to give a speech and personally commend the winners of each event." So many events. How many people will that take? Sylvia rolled her eyes. You asked for it, hero. All right, I'll be there when the time comes. Han Xiao had no choice. Also, I suggest that you watch the last two matches in person. Since you're back, it's best that you attend the finals and show the importance you place on the competition. Anyway, it's not like we're in a rush. We'll do it together. The group hurriedly left the dock. In the crowd, a group of players stretched their necks to look at Han Zhao's back. Many people around recognized them. This group of people was the gold team that had entered the Black Star Cup Immortal Four-Way Battle Royale. They were a group of solo experts, and because of their dazzling performance in the Black Star Cup, they had attracted many fans. After sending Han Xiao off with their eyes, the members of the gold battle team looked at the mechanic in the middle. "We really met Black Star here. How is it? Has the character summon card been generated? What ability did you engrave?" Everyone asked at once. They had gathered here today to let a mechanic with a blank character summon card engrave Black Star's ability to obtain a trump card for the finals. Because beyond grade, as were very elusive, they had originally planned to engrave a Calamity Grade Super. However, their army commander had coincidentally returned, and no one was more suitable than Black Star to be the target of a blank character summon card. Don't worry, it's still being generated. This mechanic opened the team display function on the interface and stared at the interface nervously with everyone else. After waiting for 2 or 3 seconds, a notification finally popped up on the interface. Everyone's spirits were lifted, and they hurriedly looked over. You have received Character Summon Card, Black Star. Character Summon Card Ability, Trillion Mecha Empire, Manison. Usages, 0/1 inch. At this moment, everyone's faces were filled with question marks, and their hearts were filled with confusion. What's going on? Weren't we supposed to loot Black Star? Why did the Mecha Empire appear? At this moment, the few of them suddenly trembled. They looked at each other and saw fear in each other's eyes. They felt as though they had discovered a shocking secret. There was only one explanation for this situation. The army commander had been swapped out. That Black Star must be fake. Chapter 1143. An hour later, in the dim room, the green candle flame on the table was the only source of light. The flame flickered and flickered as it was blown by the airflow, illuminating the faces around the table in a pale green color, leaving mottled shadows. It looked very eerie and terrifying. Above the candle flame, a public interface floated, showing the introduction of the Black Star character summon card. The captain of Team Gold, whose ID was flying free, was a veteran player who had entered the game in version 1.0. At this moment, he had a worried expression on his face as he spoke in a low voice. I didn't expect to discover such a huge secret. Everyone, what should we do now? What else can we do? Quickly announce it. But this is our trump card for the finals. If we announce it, won't we be exposed? Look at the situation now. Why do you still care so much? Compared to the safety of the entire army, the victory of the competition is no longer important. Don't you know what's more important? While everyone was arguing, a female player suddenly raised her hand weakly and asked, I have a question. Why don't we turn on the lights and only light candles? We need such a dark environment to talk about such an important matter. That's how it is in movies. I understand the logic, but why do we only light candles? Another team member scratched his head. We might be the only ones who have discovered the truth. The atmosphere has to be serious. Do you understand the sense of ceremony? Another team member said, I see. But why do we only light candles? Enough. Flying Free could not take it anymore. He got up and went to turn on the lights, pulling the topic back. After obtaining the Black Star character summon card, the hearts of the members of Team Gold were shaken. They quickly returned to the stronghold to discuss what to do. In terms of how to deal with this problem, the entire team was divided into two factions. One side felt that they should keep the secret until after the finals. The other side felt that this matter was of great importance and should be announced on the forums immediately, reminding all the army players that their faction leader had been swapped. Although it was not easy for them to enter the Black Star Cup finals, after discovering this secret, the competition immediately lost its interest. Everyone's attention was completely attracted by the mystery of the army commander's identity. The character summon card was marked with the prefix Black Star, but no one dared to guarantee that this wasn't the target's disguise. After all, there had been similar cases before. A blank character summon card's name would usually only show the target's current identity, which meant that it wouldn't be able to see through the disguise. For example, if a blank character summon card was used on Sorokin or Oathkeeper, it would only display Sorokin character summon card or Oathkeeper character summon card. It would not reveal their true identities. Therefore, in everyone's eyes, this ability with the suffix Manison was obviously more convincing. Boom! Flying Free slammed the table and said firmly, I think that we should immediately announce this news. We have no chance of reaching the finals in the official league, but the Black Star Cup gives us a chance. Even if we lose the finals, we'll still be in the top 4 and gain a lot of popularity. If not for the Black Star Cup organized by the Army, all of this would not have existed. As the old saying goes, don't forget the person who dug the well when you reap the benefits. The competition rewards are only a small benefit, but protecting the entire army is the biggest benefit. Furthermore, over the past few versions, how many benefits has the army commander brought to us? How many people like this character? He might be in danger now, so how can we sit back and do nothing? Now, the opportunity to save the army is in our hands. Many of the solo players present were hardcore Chinese players. They had deep feelings for the army and had long treated it as their own faction. For a hardcore like Flying Free, in order to protect the army in Black Star, he was even willing to give up the benefits of the finals just to remind everyone. Because the number of people he had was not enough, it was better to gather the strength of the army players and think of a way to destroy the Mecha Empire's scheme together. Hearing this, everyone thought of the past and suddenly felt their blood boil. A belief rose in their hearts. At this time, Flying Free stretched out his hand. Everyone understood and put their hands together. They looked at each other and saw a strong sense of responsibility in each other's eyes. Now, it's our turn to save the army commander. After shouting this slogan, Flying Free immediately opened the forums and started writing a post. Without hesitation, he wrote a title, Secrets of a Century, The Unspeakable Secret of Black Star and the Mecha Empire. The fleet rested on planet Blackgate for half a day before setting off again, heading toward the final venue of the Black Star Cup. In a cabin, Han Xiao and Sylvia talked about work for half a day before waving for Sylvia to leave. He was the only one left in the room. He leaned back comfortably on the chair, opened the forum, and began his daily observation of the idiotic netizens. Let me see what's the happy meal today. Han Xiao hummed a tune as he entered the forums. With one look, he was instantly dumbfounded. At a glance, all of them were urgent requests for dissemination. The Army commander's identity is a mystery. The Mecha Empire's shocking conspiracy. Emergency. The Black Star Corps might change hands. Save the Army commander. The entire flickering world was flooded with similar posts. What the hell is all this? I haven't looked at the forums for half a day. What happened? Han Xiao was confused. He opened the most popular post and saw that the person who posted it was an ID that he recognized. It was the captain of the gold team, Flying Free. At the beginning of the post was a high-definition screenshot. It was the introduction of the Black Star character summon card. Seeing the name of the ability of Billion Mecha Empire, Manison, Han Xiao immediately understood what was going on. His mouth could not help but twitch. It can't be. I have thousands of abilities, and this just had to be drawn by a blank character summon card? What kind of luck did these people have? Speaking of which, I just came back. When was this drawn? Could it be that I was touched at the dock? He continued reading, and, as expected, Flying Free explained what had happened. Hello, everyone. I'm Flying Free from the Gold Team. Just an hour ago, we discovered a shocking secret. Not long ago, when the Army commander returned to the territory, our team blended in with the crowd and planned to use a blank character summon card to record Black Star's ability. Originally, we wanted to use it as our trump card in the upcoming Black Star Cup finals. However, as you can see in the screenshot, we did not expect to draw the ability of the Mecha Empire from Black Star. This shocked all of us. We couldn't understand the situation. After some discussion, we came to a shocking conclusion. The current Army commander might be the Mecha Empire in disguise. His goal is to replace Black Star and usurp the throne of our Army commander. In the end, we unanimously decided to immediately publicize such crucial information. We need everyone to unite to find out the truth and unravel the conspiracy. Everyone, the future of the Army commander is in our hands. Han Xiao had a constipated expression on his face. This deduction did not seem unreasonable, but why did he still feel that there was something wrong with these people's brains? He looked at the replies below. It had already exploded, and countless people were doubting him. Is this for real? This picture can't be photoshopped, right? It must be photoshopped. These young people want to create big news every day. Are you guys thinking that there's no hope of winning, so you want to do something stupid? Good job. I'll reward you with a piece of earwax. It's over. Someone is going to change their name to the Mecha Empire. Facing the doubts, Flying Free added in the popular replies, I know everyone must have their doubts. On the day of the finals, we will use this character summon card and show it to everyone to make them believe that the Army commander needs us to save them. Save your grandma's leg. Han Xiao gritted his teeth and returned to the page. He quickly browsed through the related posts and found that other than the doubters, there are many posts seriously analyzing this possibility. Frowny face Reinhardt. Maybe it's true. The Mecha Empire definitely has the motive to do this. Didn't they have a conflict in the ancient Star Desert some time ago? Could it be that the Mecha Empire attacked the Army commander after that? Pikachu, if this is fake, then where is the real Army commander? Was he killed? Wolffire, probably not. After all, the Army commander is so tanky. I think the Mecha Empire just exiled him and won't be able to return for a while. That's why he dared to pretend to be Black Star. Foot-scratching hippo. Do you all agree that the Army commander has been swapped? Could it be that Black Star used some method to learn the Mecha Empire's ability? Smelly Footbuster. The possibility is too low. After so many years, this is the first time a blank character card has drawn a unique ability from Black Star. 0 to the 0. Could it be that they made a deal to teach each other their unique abilities? My dog is called Loggy. So, if we use a blank character card on the Mecha Empire now, it's possible to draw Indestructible Body. Black Star? Good brother Pat's big. Damn, that's awesome. You're a F** King genius. Han Xiao felt his teeth ache. Ice Tornado. Wait, there are other possibilities. Could it be that Black Star's ability was taught by the Mecha Empire from the start? Blueberry. That's shocking. That makes sense. If Black Star was a secret disciple of the Mecha Empire from a long time ago, his rapid rise can be explained. Shadow Stream Execution Song. From the looks of it, the falling out some time ago was just a two-man show. One jumped the other pretended to be loyal, but they were in cahoots behind the scenes. That's too showy. TSK. I understand now. The Mecha Empire has a big conspiracy. They're playing a big game of chess. What do you understand? Veins popped out on Han Zhao's forehead. Sanguine rose. I can't take it anymore. I can't hold back my curiosity. What happened between Black Star and the Mecha Empire? Paradise Disco. Let me remind you, if I ask the Legion commander directly, will I be killed? Although I'm not afraid. Pork bun beats dog. My eyes see through everything. A storm is brewing. This secret may lead to a new main storyline. I have a feeling that the theme of the next version will be the division of the Black Star Corps. I have material again. You're the one who's divided. Your whole family is divided. Han Xiao felt that if he grabbed these players and shook them, he would definitely be able to hear the sound of liquid sloshing around in their heads. He glanced through and suddenly saw a new post. The title was Army Rescue Plan, Call to Action. He clicked on it and saw that it was another post by that freelance shit thrower. Brothers and sisters, the Black Star Corps has accompanied us for 4 versions. This is our faction. We can't let anyone take away the fruits of our hard work. Unfortunately, the officers of the army won't believe us. Only the players can see our evidence. For this reason, I've decided to start a righteous rebellion. While the Black Star Cup commendation ceremony is being broadcasted live to the entire universe, I'm going to stand out and expose the true face of the Mecha Empire. Therefore, I need everyone's strength. Although we're far from being a match for a Beyond Grade, we can use our lives to let the entire universe see the scheme of the Mecha Empire. All those who are willing to participate, leave your name in this post and contact us. Everyone, draw your swords. It's up to us to save the army now. Although I'm dead, I'm still a pawn under the Black Star. Manison of the Mecha Empire. Show your health bar. Han Xiao was dumbfounded. Scrolling down, the number of replies to this post was increasing at a rate of 100 per second. Countless people were extremely excited and clamored to sign up. Who knew how many of them were people who wanted to see the world burn? What the F*** CK? Are they trying to stab me in the back? Han Zhao's expression was extremely complicated. He did not know if he should be hurt or touched. After this incident, it could be seen that the results of my 4 versions were very obvious. I've already formed a deep bond with the Chinese players. These players are willing to go to such lengths for me. It's really touching my ass. There's such a thing? After reading the post twice, Han Xiao clenched his teeth. You don't say this post made my blood boil? Damn it, a mental patient really has a lot of fun. The error-free chapters of Legendary Mechanic will continue to be updated. There will be no advertisements on the website. Please bookmark and recommend the Legendary Mechanic. If you like Legendary Mechanic, please bookmark Legendary Mechanic. The Legendary Mechanic fighting bar updates the fastest. Chapter 1144. Han Xiao could not help but rub his temples as he felt a headache coming on. Players were the embodiment of chaos. Even if they had become members of their own faction, they were still uncontrollable. Even if their intentions were good, their subjective initiative would always cause all kinds of unimaginable things. The atmosphere of the entire forum section was led astray by this topic. Han Xiao even saw titles that seemed to be pornographic which showed the power of a few blind people. After being depressed for a while, Han Xiao suddenly laughed. These people really know how to cause a ruckus, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. He thought for a while, and suddenly realized that there was no need to stop them. Not to mention that the players were communicating on the forum. He could not use this as evidence to arrest them. How could he hold a commendation ceremony if he arrested them? Furthermore, this was not a bad thing for the sense of belonging to the army. If not for the fact that the hardcore players loved and respected him, why would they volunteer to save him? Running a warlord force in the universe did not need to be like a tinkerer. Instead, letting the players cause a ruckus during the closing ceremony would increase the topic of the Black Star Cup and increase the popularity of public opinion. It would also save him the effort of giving out missions and acting on his own. Flying Free's loyal subjects wanted to do a round of righteous backstabbing. But in the eyes of Han Xiao, they were no threat at all. He was happy to play along with them. The public image of the Black Star Corps in the universe was basically equivalent to that of a righteous person recognized by everyone. The people were now very tolerant of the army. Even if this small episode happened at the end of the Black Star Cup, it would not affect the army's prestige. Instead, it would make most of the people feel that it was interesting. The reputation that they had accumulated over the years was not for nothing. This was the armor of public opinion. In fact, Han Xiao understood after thinking about it carefully. He did not need to explain the rumors circulating among the players to anyone. This was not a problem in his eyes at all. He was the leader of the faction, a top warlord in the universe. He was not really swapped. If he had to carefully explain himself in the face of such strange accusations, wouldn't it be a joke? It was like the famous Chuan Jiangwo in history in his previous life. Did he really need to explain himself to the public? Of course not. Everyone just needs to know that he's a comrade. The evidence of the player's suspicion was the effect of the character summon card. It seemed reasonable from their perspective, but as long as they looked at the overall situation, this suspicion was not valid. If the Mecha Empire had really swapped him, there were too many flaws that could not be explained. For example, the senses of the other beyond grade, as were not for decoration. The three universal civilizations would definitely have discovered it. The army's artificial intelligence Philip would not have no reaction at all, and the other party would not have been able to activate his dimensional army box. No one in the universe could impersonate another peak beyond grade A without any flaws. Even Kant, the illusion god, could not do it. Some players did not understand the common sense between these big shots. Therefore, their accusations might be treated as gossip by the galactic residents. However, only a fool would really believe them. Non-players could not see the interface. Their evidence was something that did not exist for ordinary people. Han Xiaoxin was very knowledgeable. The main reason why the players believed in this rumor was that it was still fresh. Once the initial fanaticism and blindness disappeared, they would see that there was no change in the faction's movements. This ridiculous rumor would naturally fall apart. How could there not be any strange rumors about the big shots? Explaining was unnecessary. It was better to leave some room for the players to fill in the gaps. Han Zhao's eyes flashed. To the players who purely enjoyed the benefits of the faction, it did not matter who was in charge. Therefore, to be willing to take the risk of being punished by the faction to expose the conspiracy of the Mecha Empire was tantamount to sacrificing one's life. Then, wouldn't the more people who participated in this operation, the stronger the cohesion of the army? Furthermore, the players using such a reason to cause trouble were slandering the Mecha Empire. Thinking of this, Han Xiao smiled and summoned Philip. Philip, focus on monitoring the movements of the army's immortals. Report any situation to me. Okay, By the way, use my name to invite the Beyond Grade as over. Send a copy to the Mecha Empire too. Didn't you have a falling out with the Mecha Empire? Will he come? Philip tilted his head with a confused expression. How would I know? Just send it to him. It'll be best if he comes. I can tease him again. Han Xiao chuckled. Okay. Seeing Han Zhao's kind smile, Philip shrunk his head and did not dare say or ask. Black Star invited me to participate in an event? In a secret base somewhere in the primeval Star River, Manison, who was facing simulation models to deduce the theory of the virtual mutiny virus, stopped and looked at his artificial intelligence with confusion. Yes, he intends to invite you to the Black Star Cup closing ceremony. Is this guy acting up again? Didn't we already fall out? Why is he sending me an invitation now? What makes Black Star think that I will go and support his event? Madison was confused. Is he trying to make up for our relationship and get back together? Or is he trying to embarrass me in public? I'm not going. Reject him for me. Madison replied calmly and continued to deduce the technology. Okay, the message has been sent. Madison nodded and suddenly stopped what he was doing. By the way, on the day of the Black Star Cup closing ceremony, remember to remind me to watch the live broadcast. Although he did not intend to give Han Xiao face, he wanted to see what Black Star was up to. Just as the forums were discussing Han Xiao's authenticity, the last 2 matches of the Black Star Cup were held as scheduled. Countless spectator stands floated in the sky above the competition planet, and they were all filled with people. Not only were there army members, but there were also normal spectators who had bought tickets. The special spectator stands produced by the Army's logistics department were oval-shaped, and all the walls were made of transparent materials. One could see the situation outside from any angle from the inside, and it also had a zoom function. At the same time, layers of transparent energy barriers protected the spectator stands, which could isolate all kinds of impacts and radiation to prevent the lucky spectators from being injured by the aftershocks. The external anti-gravity ion vectors could allow the spectators' stands to fly at high speeds in various postures, stabilizing at Mach 24 to ensure that they could keep up with the movement speed of the Calamity-grade supers at high altitudes. The cabin was equipped with advanced vertical gyroscopic stabilizers, noise reduction equipment, and shock absorption devices. Even if they flew at supersonic speeds, the spectators would not feel any bumps and would feel as though they were on solid ground at all times. Today, Han Xiao was personally attending the competition. He arrived at the venue and floated in front of the many spectators. As soon as he appeared, he felt as though an electric current was running through his skin, as though he was being sized up by countless people from behind. Han Xiao was not surprised at all. He did not even need to turn around to know that it was the countless players in the audience who were using the detect skill on him. Philip reported the discussions in his mind to him from every single audience seat. In the eyes of the players, Han Zhao's specific attributes were still a question mark, but their goal was to detect the color of Han Zhao's name. The result they obtained was still a green name, which represented their own people. They could not help but whisper among themselves. Let's begin. Han Xiao did not care about the small commotion among the players and turned to signal the host. The host coughed and said loudly, "Hello, everyone. Today is the last day of the official Black Star Cup competition. There will be a total of 2 finals, the solo finals of the Calamity Grade Supers and the 4-way free-for-all finals of the Immortal Grade Supers. Let's cut to the chase. The first match today is a duel between 2 Calamity Grade Supers. Contestants, please step forward." As soon as he said that, Hardaway and Jatina appeared. After a simple introduction and interaction, they went to their respective positions and waited for the match to begin. The Calamity Grade Supers were all on the surface of the planet. Time passed minute by minute, and the atmosphere in the venue gradually became heavy. As the host announced the start of the match, the 2 figures left after images on the spot and suddenly collided. Boom! A shock wave burst out, and the 2 of them immediately got entangled in a fight. Their movements were like shifting shadows, incomparably fast. They moved rapidly on the ground, and wherever they passed, the ground would crack, leaving behind deep claw marks that were several hundred meters long. Boom, 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 boom. The ferocious pugilist flames continued to bombard Hadavi's body, and the aftershocks shattered all the rocks and trees along the way. It was as if a smoke dragon was rampaging on the ground, causing earthquakes, landslides, tsunamis, and other natural disasters. Hardaway was a hardening esper, and Jatina was a pugilist. Both of them were good at close combat, and the battle between the 2 of them was violent and barbaric. It was completely a collision of muscles, like 2 ferocious beasts fighting each other. To be specific, Jataina attacked, and Hardaway was beaten up. It depended on whether the one who was beaten could not take it anymore or the one who was beaten got tired first. The battle between Calamity-grade supers was huge and shocking, and it was extremely exciting in the eyes of the majority of the audience. However, in Han Zhao's eyes, the movements of the two of them were like snails. He could easily count how many times Hardaway's face had trembled after being punched. With Han Zhao's current level, the battle between Calamity-grade supers was not suspenseful in his eyes. He decided to take a look while browsing the forums. Under the eyes of the audience, the two of them fought for half a day before the outcome was decided. The surface of the planet looked like it had been bombarded by countless meteorites, and it was a tragic sight. In the end, Hardaway won. Although he was beaten black and blue, he was able to tire Jataina out. After decades of trial and error, Hardaway's hardening defense was now terrifyingly high. Coupled with his two molding talents, true damage immunity and low-intensity attack immunity, in the Black Star Corps, other than Han Zhao, there was no one who was tankier than him. Haha, I've been personally trained by His Excellency Black Star for decades. You're still too inexperienced. Hardaway proudly shook his finger at Jataina, who was on the ground. If one ignored his swollen cheeks, these words were quite convincing. Damn it. Jataina's face was filled with unwillingness. She slammed the ground, and the shockwave cracked the ground dozens of meters in diameter. Not being able to win the championship meant that she would not be seen in a different light by Black Star. Not being seen in a different light meant that she would have less time to communicate with Black Star during the commendation ceremony. Less time to communicate would increase the difficulty of developing feelings, which meant that the chances of her mating with Black Star would decrease. This made her, a rookie whose goal was to sleep with Black Star, extremely unwilling. Han Zhao watched the two of them go back to recuperate. He stroked his chin and thought to himself, in my previous life, Hardaway did not become a beyond grade A, and Jataina even died in the hands of Beast Ancestor. Now that the two of them are under my command, and I've trained Hardaway for decades, his chances of becoming a beyond grade A super are not zero. It's just that his abilities are too monotonous. Even if he becomes a beyond grade A super, he'll probably be at the bottom like Kohler and Bayoni. As for Jataina, other than her bold lifestyle, Han Zhao quite admired her. In terms of potential alone, Jataina's chances of becoming a beyond grade A super might be higher than Hardaway's, but it was basically impossible for her to reach the level of Beast Ancestor. Han Zhao felt that Jataina's growth limit might be Star Slayer Vru or Taran Heber among the dynasty's allies, although they were not very strong. At least they were not at the bottom. Thinking of Heber, Han Zhao could not help but miss him. Ever since he defeated him, Tai Tai had been much more low-key, quietly developing in the Shattered Star Ring. However, speaking of low-key, Han Zhao thought of Cisco again. He felt that this guy's presence in the universe seemed to be getting lower and lower. He could find some time to visit the Star Pupil Civilization. After all, he was now the special consultant of the three universal civilizations, so it was reasonable for him to visit them. While he was thinking, the logistics team of the Black Star Cup had already entered the venue. Using the Continental Shelf Stabilizer, Natural Weather Controller, earth and rock filling pipes, and other industrial equipment, they performed plastic surgery on this almost destroyed planet. After arranging a new venue, the host announced the start of the final match. Rivervale, Dynasty, Thunderstorm, and Gold appeared one after another, greeting everyone. However, at this time, all the players' eyes were focused on Gold. Even the other three teams looked at Gold. Their meaning was self-evident. They were waiting for them to prove themselves. Captain, should I use the character summon card now? Flying Free looked around and said, without hesitation, yes. This is the place to prove that what we said is true. The mechanic player took a deep breath, opened the interface, activated the Black Star character summon card, enlarged the status bar, and adjusted it to public. The interface was displayed to everyone present. It did not exist in the eyes of ordinary people, and only the players saw the name of this character summon card. Black Star Summon Card, Billion Mecha Empire, Manison, Duration, 1 hour. It's true. On the countless spectator stands, the players were excited. Many people stood up suddenly, attracting the confused gazes of the other spectators. Han Xiao floated in midair with his arms crossed. Hearing the commotion from the surveillance in his mind, the corners of his mouth curled up. After a while, many players calmed down and quickly calmed down. They looked up at Han Xiao's back with all kinds of emotions in their eyes. Originally, the last match was the focus of attention, but many players were too shocked to watch the match. Their minds were in a mess. On the other hand, the NPC spectators were as excited as usual, constantly cheering for the 4 teams. They did not know that the immortals beside them were going through a roller coaster ride. Han Xiao did not pay much attention to the match. He kept checking the players' comments on the forums. When he turned back, the match had already ended. In the end, Dynasty won, and Gold was the first to be eliminated. Gold had exposed their trump card early, so of course, they were targeted. Furthermore, Billion Mecha Empire could not display any shocking effects in the hands of the current players. The players did not have those high-level mechanic skills, so they could not enjoy the targeted bonuses. Furthermore, it only lasted for an hour, so their strongest production and research abilities could not be used. The players could only enjoy the basic bonuses such as intelligence plus 15%, machinery affinity plus 1, 2x, and mechanic skill level plus 2. Although it was powerful, it was clearly not enough to crush the opponents. In fact, with the current strength of the players, the bonuses provided by this skill might not be as practical as the evolution badge. In the hands of the current players, this ability was completely buried. Only peak beyond grade A mechanics could display the strength of Billion Mecha Empire. All the matches of the Black Star Cup have ended. Thank you for watching, and thank the Army Commander for attending today's match. In 3 days, we will hold the closing ceremony of the Black Star Cup. The Army Commander will personally commend all the winners who achieved good results in the Black Star Cup. Ladies and gentlemen, see you there. The host interviewed everyone for a while, then finished his speech and ended the broadcast for the day. Many of the spectators were still not satisfied and left the stage one after another. Groups of players mixed in the crowd, turning back every few steps to size up Han Xiao, who was still standing at the same spot. Han Xiao smiled and watched the crowd leave. He took in a performance of the players and could not help but raise his brows. He was looking forward to it. I want to see how important I am in the hearts of the players, and how many people are willing to sacrifice their lives for me. If you like Legendary Mechanic, please bookmark. Legendary Mechanic updates the fastest. Chapter 1145. The players of the Black Star Corps seem to have a spirit of sacrifice. With the confirmation of the character summon card, the forums had temporarily turned into the intelligence center of the Save Black Star plan. Many Army players called their friends here and privately expanded their team. With Flying Free as the head, the Action Command Center posted again and again. Many of the hardcore Chinese players who had followed them since version 1.0 had a sense of responsibility and faith. They felt that they had to do something to save the army from the crisis of falling into the hands of the Mecha Empire. Many people responded, especially some pro players such as Madblade and Maple Moon, who also expressed their contributions. The entire Save Black Star plan became a large-scale activity organized by the Army players. Of course, among the participants, there were also players who wanted to fish in troubled waters, speculate, and cause trouble. Some just wanted to make big news, some wanted to show their loyalty and be favored by Black Star when he returned, and some wanted to try to trigger hidden missions. The atmosphere on the forums was like everyone was a soldier. Everyone wanted to exchange their blood for the heavens. But in reality, most people were just there to join in the fun. Now, the structure of the players in the army was already complex. Not only were there Chinese players, but there were also a large number of international players who joined in version 4.0. Even among the Chinese players, there were some who were unwilling to invest a lot of time and energy in the Black Star Corps and were not willing to take the risk. Han Xiao had seen all the activity on the forums in the past 3 days. The Save Black Star plan, organized by Flying Free, was no secret to him. Although a group of players was planning how to stab him in the back tomorrow, Han Xiao was not angry at all. Instead, he was enjoying it. This is really becoming a true brother coming to stab me. Han Xiaoxin found it funny. At this moment, Philip popped out and said in a buzzing voice, "Master, there are a few immortals who want to see you." He said that he learned that the immortals are plotting a rebellion and wants to inform you. Oh, Han Zhao's eyes flashed. How could there be a traitor? Well, considering that the target was a player, it would be strange if there weren't any traitors. Let them come over. Han Xiao rolled his eyes and ordered. After waiting in the office for a while, a few players wearing fancy armor walked in. From their IDs, it was obvious that they were foreign players. Io, Army Commander, a Frost Demon player in the lead, opened his mouth to greet the group. Immediately, a strong hip-hop vibe swept over them. You're saying that the Immortals are planning a rebellion? Tell me what's going on. Han Xiao feigned ignorance and asked with a puzzled expression. Oh, it's like this. We're all good people, but some Immortals are ambitious and dissatisfied with your rule. So they want to use a ridiculous excuse to incite the army and attack you at tomorrow's ceremony. Han Xiao raised his eyebrows. What excuse? I heard that they are planning to accuse you of being the Mecha Empire. Don't you think that's funny? Interesting. Han Xiao sized him up and chuckled. Got it. I'll check it out. If it's true, all of you have contributed. Hee. Give us more contribution points. This person's tone was loud and did not hold back at all. Han Xiao pretended not to hear and waved his hand to let them leave. At this time, Philip reported that there were more people who wanted to leak information. He did not reject anyone and patiently received batch after batch of traitors. Most of them were foreign players, and the content was almost the same. He exposed the plans of Fly Free and the others and smear their motives, saying that they were betrayals out of ambition. After sending away the last batch of traitors, Han Xiao revealed an inexplicable smile. This group of people, some of them are pure speculators, but the other group are probably spies planted in the army by the foreign professional guilds. They want to use this opportunity to cause trouble. He had always known that there were spies from the foreign guilds in the army. This was the inevitable result of opening the door to recruit new players. The motive of Flying Free and the others was still quite positive, but this group of spies was full of evil tricks. Han Xiao could tell at a glance that this group of spies wanted to use this opportunity to make a fuss. On one hand, they wanted the Chinese players to be severely punished and the influence of the Chinese guilds in the army. On the other hand, they wanted to weaken his trust in the Immortals and make the treatment of the Black Star Corps decrease. The spies from the foreign guilds did not care if he was the Mecha Empire or Black Star. If he was the Mecha Empire, it would cause the Mecha Empire to be suspicious and have thoughts of eliminating dissidents. If everyone misunderstood and the army commander was still the Black Star, then they would be showing their loyalty by telling on him. They felt that this was a plan to kill two birds with one stone. If he did not have the information on the forums, he might have believed it. However, Han Xiao already knew the truth of the matter through the forums. These spies wanted to use the information gap to make use of him, and their schemes were seen through by him at a glance. Looking at the smug looks on the faces of these traitors who felt that their plan had succeeded, Han Xiao wanted to laugh out loud, even though he looked calm on the surface. Little guys, I'll let you laugh for a while. After the ceremony, I'll pull out your list. Han Xiao knocked on the table and ordered in a deep voice, Philip, secretly deploy the mechanical soldiers in the warehouse and place them in every corner of the venue, especially the VIP seats, audience seats, and the media. Once someone attacks the guests tomorrow, take them down immediately. This order was not to guard against Flying Free and the others. Their target was only him, and their motive was to protect the Black Star Corps. Therefore, the plan did not involve the innocent. However, there was an 80% chance that someone would take the opportunity to cause trouble and damage the reputation of the army by harming the audience. Basically, only the foreign professional guilds would have a reason to do so. Han Xiao did not stop Flying Free and the others from expressing their loyalty. but he would not sit by and watch the enemy cause trouble. Humph, the Imperialists will never give up on killing us. Han Xiao snorted. Speaking of which, version 4.0 is already in the middle stage and is about to enter the late stage. The National War will probably break out together with the Supercluster Alliance, just like in my previous life. I wonder if the alliance formed by the players will still be formed, he thought to himself. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye, and the competition planet had been transformed into an open-air venue for the ceremony. The main stage was a large floating platform, and the people sitting there were all important guests. There were a large number of small platforms floating around it, like floating islands. They were the audience seats, the media broadcast seats, and the seats for the winners of the various events. A spherical shield enveloped the venue area, isolating the cold wind from the high altitude and preventing unrelated people from disturbing the closing ceremony. At the same time, a layer of virtual sky covered the shield, creating the feeling of an enclosed theater, making people not feel that the venue was open air. All kinds of spaceships were suspended in outer space, and they arrived at the venue area on the in-atmosphere vehicles provided by the Army. The well-dressed audience, guests, and contestants found their seats and sat down. The venue quickly became a sea of people, an unprecedented spectacle. At this time, they were still in the entrance stage. Flying Free led the team to the contestant seats and sat down. They looked around and made eye contact with the players on the same floating platform from time to time. At this time, someone patted Flying Free's shoulder. He turned around and saw that it was the captain of the Rivervale team, Madblade. "When are we going to act?" Madblade lowered his voice. As a true loyalist, he had also participated in the battle to save Black Star. "It's still early, so there's no rush. Just like the plan, when it's time to give us the award, everyone will look for my signal and act together," Flying Free said in a low voice. "How many people do you think there will be? Although there are many people who signed up, it's already not bad if 10% of them actually take action." Flying Free shook his head. "Okay, we'll wait for your signal." While the players participating in the plan to save Black Star were communicating in private, another group of people was plotting a new operation. "Have we spread our men out?" On one of the floating platforms, a player with the ID Winter Wolf asked his companion in the private channel. "Don't worry, buddy. Our men are spread out on many platforms, and some of them are very close to the celebrity guests. When the Chinese people act, we can take advantage of the chaos and cause quite a lot of damage." "Very good." Winter Wolf nodded and said with a deep voice, "The Black Star Corps is too strong, and we have to weaken them. This is the first time our northern battlefront has taken action since it was secretly established. We have to make the first move and pave the way for our national war plan." "Understood." At the same time, Han Xiao was receiving the remote projections of the various Beyond Grade as in the important guest seats on the main stage. He had a lot of face now. With a wave of his hand, 70% of the Beyond Grade A members of the Development Union came to watch the ceremony. All the big shots were sitting at the very front. Han Xiao casually chatted with everyone and laughed from time to time. The seats in the venue were gradually filled, and everyone slowly arrived. At this time, the lights in the venue slowly dimmed, leaving only the main stage brightly lit. Seeing this, the noisy venue gradually quieted down, and everyone's eyes gathered on the stage. Sylvia walked onto the stage. She had taken off her uniform today and was wearing an expensive purple backless dress. She had put on light makeup, and her face was delicate and beautiful. Her long hair was tied up, revealing her slender neck. Her silver earrings could be seen swaying slightly, reflecting a soft light that was smooth but not dazzling, making her look graceful and elegant. She looked around the venue and spoke loudly. "Dear guests, contestants, and audience in front of the screen, welcome to the closing ceremony of the first Black Star Cup. I'm Sylvia, the Chief Administrative Officer of the Army." After that, Sylvia paused according to the script. Han Xiao smiled and led the applause. Seeing this, the people around him also clapped. Very soon, the venue was filled with thunderous applause. Seeing this, Sylvia continued. "As the Army continues to expand, we have more and more members. The original intention of the Black Star Cup was to select the elites of the Army in various fields, giving the capable but inexperienced new members an additional channel to rise. At the same time, it also gives the old members a chance to show their improvement. Now that the Black Star Cup has come to a successful end, we are pleasantly surprised to find that there are so many elites in the Army in various fields. On the stage, Sylvia began reading the script. The image was broadcasted to the entire universe through the media present. The closing ceremony of the Black Star Cup was naturally not just a simple award ceremony. The specific process was Sylvia, the Black Star Cup organizing committee speaking, the winners of the various events going on stage to receive their commendations and speeches, and finally, the Army commander's concluding speech. During this period, there would be a large number of performances. For this, the Army specially invited many celebrities from the entertainment industry and the Galactic Society. There were singers, actors, and everything else. Those who were present were all big-name celebrities. The galactic celebrities present were all very high-ranking. Generally speaking, ordinary events would be proud of these celebrities. However, the Black Star Cup was too high-ranking, and these celebrities were proud to participate in the closing ceremony. This was an entertainment event organized by the warlords of the universe, and it was a good opportunity to build a relationship with many strong people. In order to obtain a spot in the performance, the entertainment companies behind many celebrities even fought fiercely with each other. Han Xiao was quickly invited to the stage to personally award the winners of the various events and give them some encouragement. The remote projections of the two Vice Army commanders, Hela and Lagi, stood by the side. They did not say anything and only nodded to the contestants to show their encouragement. However, the reason why the two of them did not say anything was different. Hela did not like to talk and was too lazy to speak, while Lagi's communication function was cut off by Han Xiao, so he could not make a single sound. The awards ceremony and the performances of the celebrities were interspersed. Halfway through the closing ceremony, Han Xiao felt that his face was about to turn stiff from smiling, and the audience below also felt that their palms were about to turn red from clapping. This time, it was finally time to give out the awards to the players. The troublemakers are coming. Han Xiao felt energized. Everyone went up on stage. Flying Free gritted his teeth and strode onto the stage. His back gave off a cold aura, as if he was walking onto the execution ground. Congratulations, everyone. You're all talents of the Army. Han Xiao read the script again and looked deeply at Flying Free. He smiled and took 2 steps back, giving the stage to the contestants to speak. None of the contestants on stage went up. They all looked at Flying Free. Their intentions were self-evident. Flying Free nodded to everyone and walked to the podium with heavy steps. The entire venue was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. Everyone's eyes were fixed on him, waiting for him to speak. The laziness of the 2 groups of players was swept away. All of them subconsciously straightened their backs and tensed up. They focused their attention on Free Flight's every move. Fly Free sucked in a deep breath and prepared himself mentally before he spoke in a low voice. I'm very happy to be able to achieve good results in the Black Star Cup, but this is not what I want to talk about today. Just a few days ago, we discovered a shocking secret. The Army commander on stage right now is not Black Star. He's someone else in disguise. Whoosh! It was as if thunder had exploded on the ground. All the audience, all the officers of the Army, all the celebrity guests, including all the beyond great as present, were shocked by this sudden change. They stared blankly at this person who had said such shocking words. Their minds were still in a daze. What kind of show is this? I'm a member of the Black Star Corps. This is my home. I only recognize Black Star as my leader. I won't allow anyone else to pretend to be the Army commander to control the Army. Flying Free's tone became more and more powerful. Today, I'm going to use my life to expose this person's shocking scheme to the entire universe. Save our leader. As soon as he said that, Fly Free suddenly turned around, and flames erupted from his body. He launched a suicidal charge toward Han Xiao, letting out a deafening roar. Mecha Empire, die. At the same time, in a secret base with unknown coordinates, Manison, who was watching the live broadcast, trembled and popcorn spilled all over the floor. Chapter 1146. Do it. A sudden change occurred on the stage. Following a loud shout, a commotion broke out on the spectator stands. About one-fifth of the players in the stadium suddenly rose into the air and pounced toward Han Xiao, who was on the main stage. The weapons in their hands shone brightly. They were all heroes who had answered the call and decided to sacrifice their lives for justice. It was as if a string that had been stretched taut all this time had suddenly snapped. The rest of the players looked excited. In the crowd, Winter Wolf's eyes sparkled, and he ordered in the channel, "The chance is here. Let's go." The next moment, hundreds of players rose up and were about to attack the audience. Winter Wolf soared into the air. Frost condensed on his body, leaving ice crystals all over the sky. He rushed straight toward the celebrity guest seats. Winter Wolf's eyes reflected the shocked faces of many celebrities when they turned around. Excitement appeared on his face, and he raised his hand to release his Esper ability without hesitation, preparing to turn these celebrities into ice sculptures. At the same time, the heroes who were charging toward the main stage also noticed this group of people who were taking the opportunity to cause trouble. Many of them were shocked and angry. There was no part of the plan that affected the audience. Subconsciously, some of them wanted to turn around and stop the guild spies, led by Winter Wolf, from killing the innocent. All of these changes happened in a flash. Just as the chaos was about to erupt, bright lightning suddenly burst out from the center of the venue. Gotcha! Countless mechanical force lightning bolts shot out like a spiderweb. The mechanical soldiers that had been lying in ambush in the audience seats were activated instantly and pounced toward the players who were causing trouble. These ambushers were all restrainer modified, which specialized in control. They could disintegrate into high-tech restraining suits and use their bodies to capture the target alive. With the bonus from Han Zhao's mechanical force, their attributes were far above the current grade B players. Sizzle! Black shadows flashed in the venue, and the players who were charging toward Han Xiao were all like birds with broken wings. They were all restrained by the electromagnetic chains and force field restraining devices of the restrainers, unable to move. Flying Free and the other contestants on the main stage were immediately sent flying by the explosion of energy, crashing into the edge of the stage. Just as they were about to get up and continue charging, Han Xiao gently flipped his palm, and a powerful energy wave pressed down, slamming everyone to the ground. The next moment, under the effect of mechanical force, the metal ground suddenly turned into ropes made of nanoparticles, tying Flying Free and the others up tightly. Before the various guests could react, the crisis was neutralized by Han Xiao, who was already prepared. Phew! Fortunately, I was prepared. Han Xiao heaved a sigh of relief. The current strength of the players was not even at the calamity grade, and they were not much different from ordinary people in front of him. They could not threaten him with numbers alone, but if they attacked others, they would definitely be able to hurt ordinary spectators. Even if he could react quickly, it would be difficult to guarantee that there would not be any casualties. However, he had already taken down all the players as soon as they attacked, and none of the guests were injured. The short process was frightening but not dangerous, and they could not cause any trouble under his control. This operation was triggered by Flying Free leading the tempo. With so many people involved, they were no different from a mob. Furthermore, most of the participants acted on impulse. This was the normal behavior of the players. Furthermore, time was tight, and there was not much coordination, so it was impossible to expect them to come up with a detailed plan step by step. The entire operation itself gave off a feeling of a broken cauldron sinking ships. His reaction is too fast. Winter Wolf only felt his vision blur, and he was caught. He could not fight back at all and was shocked. He turned his head with difficulty and saw that all his friends were caught by the mechanical soldiers and stuffed into the restrainers' stomachs, unable to move. Damn it, not a single one of them died. But luckily, with us as an example, it's enough to infuriate the army and reduce their trust in all the players under them. This will lower the treatment the army players receive in this faction. Winterwolf felt that it was a pity that the surprise attack had failed, and the effect was greatly reduced. However, judging from the strategic goal, the operation did not completely fail. These changes happened too fast, and the danger was resolved even faster. The guests and the audience of the various star zones were stunned for a long time before they gradually came back to their senses. Wait a minute, did we just drift on the edge of death? What happened just now? It seems like the Black Star Corps betrayed us. They said that Black Star is not Black Star. Why didn't I understand? That scared me. Is this a show? After recovering from a shock, the guests present were in an uproar. Because everything happened too quickly, they did not feel any danger at all. They were not afraid at all and only felt surprised. Everyone was talking at once, but their gazes were all on Han Xiao, who was on the stage. They were all bewildered. The many army officers immediately gathered around Han Xiao and made a defensive posture, scanning this group of players with extremely unfriendly gazes. Gila stepped forward with a murderous look on her face. Take these traitors away and interrogate them. I want to know who ordered them to do this. Sai, don't be so nervous. I still have some questions to ask them. Plus, I think the guests need an explanation too. Han Xiao raised his hand in front of Hela and signaled for the soldiers to step back. Feeling the puzzled and curious gazes of the audience, he calmly raised his finger. The nanoparticles instantly left the metal ground and dragged Flying Free and the others into the air, slowly floating in front of him. Deliberately showing a confused expression, Han Xiao asked curiously, "What did you say just now? What do you mean by that? Why do you think I'm a mechanic emperor in disguise?" Flying Free was a little depressed. The sudden movement of so many people did not even cause a ripple. In the blink of an eye, they were all wiped out and became prisoners of the Mecha Empire. But at least he had shouted out to the entire universe, and his goal had been achieved. All that was left in his heart was a sense of heroic self-sacrifice, and he scolded loudly. "Mecha Empire, no matter how well you pretend, I know you're not the real one. Do you have any evidence?" Han Xiao raised his eyebrows. Only players could see the screenshots of the character summon card. This evidence was useless to NPCs. Plus, they had already used the character summon card to prove their identity. This reason was naturally not persuasive. Flying Free had long guessed that he would face this problem. He also knew that he could not convince people other than players. He was already prepared to scold them. Without hesitation, he angered the Mecha Empire and said loudly, "It's the aura." "What?" Han Xiao was stunned. "Humph, our Black Star Army commander is such a great and righteous person. He has the people of the universe in his heart. Just looking at him is enough to make people admire him. However, you, Mechanic Emperor, disregarded the safety of the universe for your own selfish desires and actually wanted to take the source of the intelligent plague for yourself. Your wretched temperament has exposed you. The Mecha Empire is wretched." Han Xiao raised his tone, deliberately bringing a hint of threat. "That's quite wretched." Flying Free was not afraid. What kind of person is Black Star? In just a few decades, he's already on par with you. An ancient one? I think you've wasted all your years. You and our army commander are completely F. Many beyond grade has touched their noses awkwardly. Why do I feel like I've been scolded as well? Han Zhao's face twitched. He tried his best not to laugh. Wonderful. This is the feeling. Iron Z, keep scolding me. So, this is the reason for your betrayal? It's not a betrayal. Don't even think about distorting our motives. We've contributed to the army and shed blood for the army. We've long been inseparable from the army. Only Black Star has the right to lead us forward. Any outsider who tries to touch the army will definitely be met with our retaliation. Even if you kill me today, I'll shout from my coffin that I'll never compromise. Flying Free spoke so righteously that even Han Xiao was almost touched. The words that were full of influence made the blood of many hardcore players who were captured alive boil. The emotions that had accumulated over many versions surged into their hearts. They were fearless. They were not afraid of death anyway, and shouted loudly, "This is the Black Star Corps. Mecha Empire, get out. May Black Star rise as usual. The army commander is awesome. The immortals swear not to be slaves." The shouts broke through the clouds and reverberated in the field. The heroism and faith contained in them moved many of the audience. We're good citizens who know our place and have never seen the world. So, this is the daily life of a warlord organization. Love, love. However, the faces of the beyond grade, as present, all twitched. They were dumbfounded the entire time. In their understanding, this kind of situation was simply absurd to the point of being unreasonable. This time, Kant suddenly said, "Actually, I can understand the thoughts of these immortals." The group of people turned to look at him, as if "when did you get sick" was written on their faces. Kant coughed. "Actually, I've also recruited some immortals. Most of the time, they're quite normal, but occasionally they'll have mental disorders and do things that I can't understand at all. For example, someone asked me to turn into a naked female human in front of me. I accidentally killed him 3 times. Kasui agreed. I also have immortals under my command. Even I can't understand how their minds work. Someone actually wanted to steal my underwear. Can you believe it? I seem to have heard of a theory. Some experts said that the immortality of the immortals caused their minds to undergo synchronized mutation, resulting in intermittent mania, paranoia, logic disorders, tripolar disorder, and other mental disorders. Oh, that makes sense. Just because his temperament was not right, they suspected that their boss was fake. Which normal person would do such a thing? However, if it was an immortal who did such a thing, everyone instantly accepted this fact. No matter what the immortals did, it did not seem strange. As soon as the topic was opened, many of the beyond grade as who had recruited players immediately complained. Very soon, they happily reached a consensus that there was something wrong with the immortals' brains. They really admired Black Star for being able to manage the immortals so well. This time, Secret Master coldly snorted. "What are you all talking about? This is clearly a show directed and acted out by Black Star, deliberately smearing the name of the Mecha Empire. My eyes have long seen through everything. It's a pity that the Mecha Empire is not here. Otherwise, his expression would definitely be very interesting." The old dragon chuckled. Everyone imagined the scene in their minds, and one after another, they let out strange, gloating laughter. Just as the group of people were chatting happily, Han Xiao and Flying Free had already had a few round of conversations. One was the main character, the other was the supporting character, and the other was the main character. They changed their ways to smear the name of the Mecha Empire from head to toe again and again. "Come on, kill me." Fly Free looked like he was ready to die a martyr's death. Seeing that the situation was about to end, Han Xiao said, "Although you inexplicably believe that I'm the Mecha Empire in disguise, you've indeed misunderstood. How could the Mecha Empire have the ability to impersonate me? His ability is far from it." Hearing this, Kant could not help but laugh. "Whether he's Black Star or not, do you think we don't know? You guys are still too young, and your actions are too hasty. At least find concrete evidence before acting." "We do have evidence, but it's a pity that only we can see it." Seeing the reactions of Han Xiao and the other beyond grade, as Flying Free and the others were also a little shaken. There were even more people who did not really believe in the swapping theory, and hearing this, they agreed even more. The effects of a character summon card could not be faked, so the possibility of the other main direction of speculation was even higher, which was that Black Star had somehow learned the abilities of the Mecha Empire. Seeing that everyone was hesitating, Han Xiao waved his hand and said, "Take them away first. After the closing ceremony is over, I'll have a good chat with them." He did not do anything to them on the spot. Dealing with this group of people was the army's internal affairs, and there was no need to show it in such an occasion. He still had to settle this score properly. The restrainers escorted all the players who were causing trouble out of the venue. After Sylvia came up to calm everyone down, the Black Star Cup closing ceremony continued. However, many people's attention was no longer on the ceremony. They were all thinking about this small incident. Originally, the closing ceremony was just a regular segment, but now it immediately became a topic of discussion. Han Zhao's goal of using flying free and the others had been achieved. There were no more twists and turns in the closing ceremony. Everything that happened here was also broadcasted to the entire universe by the news media. Flying Free's performance led to the birth of a new saying in the galaxy, pointing at Black Star and scolding the Mecha Empire. What it meant was probably pointing at the mulberry tree and scolding the locust tree. After the live broadcast ended, the black screen reflected Manison's expressionless face. His eyes narrowed, and a cold light mixed with annoyance flashed through them. What mistake? Like hell I'll believe you. This was clearly a self-directed and self-acting show. He did not invite me with good intentions. He just wanted to embarrass me on the spot. Manison clenched his fists tightly. Black Star, you little brat, you've gone too far. Sooner or later, I'll chop you up and turn you into a felon. Chapter 1147. The closing ceremony ended, and spaceships took off one after another, sending the audience out of the venue. Han Xiao got Sylvia to entertain the guests who came to support him, while he brought the officers and Black Star Guards to the heavy main ship hovering outside the atmosphere. All the players who caused trouble were temporarily locked up there, waiting to be dealt with. Swoosh! The hatch opened, and Han Xiao walked in with a group of officers. He immediately saw the tense situation in the venue. The players locked up there were clearly divided into two groups. With Flying Free leading the majority, they surrounded the spy team, led by East of Wolfhowl. What's going on? Haluz took 2 steps forward and asked. The warden hurriedly walked up and replied, Your Excellency, they've been arguing since just now. It seems like there's an internal conflict. A bunch of rebels actually have an internal conflict? One of the Black Star Guards sneered. Although Flying Free had made a righteous speech during the ceremony, saying that he was doing this for the army, most of the officers did not believe him at all. They felt that this was just an excuse for the rebellion. Attacking the army commander in public and trying to ruin the ceremony was a sign of bad intentions. The officers of the army did not know the ins and outs of the situation like Han Xiao, so they would not be convinced with just a few words. Han Xiao knew what was going on, but he did not explain. He walked in front of everyone and did not say anything. He just looked at everyone with an expressionless face. Seeing that Black Star had arrived, the two groups stopped arguing and turned to look at Han Xiao. After Han Zhao's performance and the explanation of the Beyond Grade A, the loyal subjects led by Flying Free were already shaken. They were skeptical of their own guesses, but they had not completely dispelled their final doubts. They felt that this might be the army commander's performance to prove his identity. Therefore, at this moment, many people secretly turned on the recording function, wanting to record his face in private. If it was a completely different person from before, something would definitely be wrong. They would upload the recording to the forums to remind the other army players that they had not given up on exposing the Mecha Empire. Flying Free stepped out of the crowd and asked in a gentlemanly tone, "What are you going to do with us?" "Don't worry, I want to hear your explanation." Han Zhao's tone was neither light nor heavy as he spoke casually. "What's there to explain? We've already made our intentions clear," Flying Free shouted. Han Zhao's expression did not change as he said indifferently, "But even if this is just a misunderstanding, your actions will still lead to punishment. Have you thought about the consequences of doing this?" "Of course. Even so, you didn't hesitate to take the risk for me." "We're here for Black Star. As for whether you're the real deal, that doesn't count yet." Flying Free put his hands on his hips. At this moment, Hardaway said coldly, "Then how do you explain attacking the audience? Could it be that it's also for the Legion commander?" Flying Free's expression froze for a moment before a burst of anger surged within him. He turned around and glared at Winterwolf and the others as he shouted, "Our plan was only to expose the imposters. The ones who attacked the audience were not us. These people are not with us." Winterwolf pretended to be shocked. "What are you talking about? Isn't this the secret mission you gave us? Now you want to wash your hands clean? You're still spouting nonsense." Flying Free was furious. I didn't even have such a plan. Why are you doing this? Tisk TSK, you were the one who ordered us to do this, and now you're turning your back on us? Winter Wolf did this on purpose to make the Black Star Corps feel that they were all on the same side. This way, they could push the blame of attacking the audience to Flying Free and the others. This way, they could reduce the Black Star Corps' trust in the Immortals. The two groups of players started arguing again. This group of guild spies had already communicated and insisted that they were on the same side. The loyal party felt that their motives had been tarnished and was about to explode with anger. Elegant and easygoing greetings kept pouring out of their mouths like a waterfall. If not for the restrainer stopping them, the scene would have turned into a full-on brawl. Seeing this scene, many army officers curled their lips and had a look of disapproval. They felt that this was a futile attempt to clear their names. Hela turned to look at Han Shao and said in a deep voice, "Black Star, there are more and more immortals in the army. I feel that it's time to strengthen our control and prevent this from happening again." Someone on the side agreed. "That's right. We've been too lenient on the immortals." Hearing the discussion of the army officers, Winter Wolf's eyes flashed with joy. He felt that his plan had worked. However, at this moment, he suddenly saw Han Shao look over with a half-smile on his face. "You're the leader of this group, right?" "Me?" Winter Wolf's heart skipped a beat, but he pretended to be shocked. Han Shao snapped his fingers, and the restrainers surrounded them again, restraining the hundreds of players who had tried to attack the audience. As for the other players, they were not affected. "I have video surveillance of everyone who tried to attack the guests. I won't catch any of you wrongly," Han Shao said slowly. "Your punishment is to be locked in the space-time amber. Don't even think about coming out again." "That's not fair," Winter Wolf cried out and looked at the others. "We're on the same side. Why are you only arresting us?" T. Flying Free and the others were furious. "Stop arguing. I already know what's going on." Han Shao waved his hand. Suddenly, his face turned serious. "When you were planning, someone had already tipped me off. In fact, I could have stopped you long ago, but I allowed you to act at the closing ceremony. Do you know why?" "So, you already knew?" Everyone's expression changed, but then they thought about it. It was normal for them to have traitors, so there was nothing strange about it. However, Black Star did not stop them in advance. This was intriguing. Everyone could not help but be curious. "I know a little about your motives. Actually, I don't believe that you would betray me." Han Shao walked into the crowd, patted some people on the shoulder, and pulled Madblade and Maple Moon out of the crowd. He smiled and said, "You're all the core members of the army from the beginning. I remember all of you, especially you two. We've known each other for decades. Although we haven't been interacting much recently, I won't suspect you." Everyone was stunned, greatly surprised. They did not expect Black Star to say such words and remember them in his heart. All of a sudden, many people were touched, and they felt a sense of closeness. This was especially true for Madblade and Maple Moon. The two of them were stunned for a few seconds. Suddenly, excitement appeared on their faces, and an impulse to die for a friend surged in their hearts. Actually, seeing that the two of them also participated in the operation, Han Xiaoxin was also quite touched. The two of them were now pro players, and they were willing to take the risk to participate in this matter. Their relationship was really deep. But then again, if he was an imposter, he naturally would not be able to ban his account. Perhaps this was the reason why the two of them dared to take the risk. Looking at everyone's excited expression, Han Shao smiled. He then turned to look at Winter Wolf and the others, and his expression became cold and stern. "Ever since the expansion of the army, I knew that some spies from other organizations had sneaked in. The reason I didn't stop you was because I wanted to use your hands to lure out some of the unstable elements in the army. Now, it seems like it's working. I know very well whether you're a core member of the army or a spy, so don't try to fool me." Hearing this, Winter Wolf's jaw dropped. His expression froze, and his face was filled with disbelief. Oh my God, he could see through this? Was it so hard to trick an NPC? Although they had already mentally prepared themselves for their accounts to be banned before the operation, they were all employees of various professional guilds, so they didn't feel bad about losing their accounts. But now that the plan had been seen through, it meant that their sacrifice was in vain. The plan had completely failed, and this was a huge loss. Not wanting to listen to the excuses of these guild spies, Han Xiao took out the space-time amber and sealed the hundreds of people inside, turning them into lifelike specimens. Even if they went offline, their bodies would remain inside. Looking at this scene, Flying Free and the others were both touched and excited. Han Xiao did not deliberately explain, but the fact that he had taken out the space-time amber, coupled with his performance, immediately changed the minds of Fly Free and the others. They basically believed that he was Black Star himself. One of the reasons was because of the universal treasure, but more of it was because Han Xiao had used accurate judgment to help them clear their names and not put the blame on them. This made everyone feel very gratified. They felt a sense of satisfaction that their leader understood their intentions. As for you guys, Han Xiao turned around and smiled. Then, his face turned serious. Although I believe you guys, rules are rules. Your actions have caused an impact, so there must be punishment. As punishment, you guys need to carry out some missions to make up for your mistakes, and the army discount you enjoy will be temporarily canceled for 3 months. What do you think? That's what we should do. I have no objections. Flying Free waved his hand with a heroic expression. Everyone chimed in one after another. Although they were punished, their hearts were filled with joy. Compared to what Winter Wolf and the others had encountered, this punishment was nothing. The difference was too great. Han Xiao waved his hands and dismissed the restrainers, allowing them to leave. After the players left, Haluz could not help but ask, "Black Star, are you going to let it go just like that? Didn't I punish them?" Han Xiao raised his brows. "What kind of punishment is that? It's as good as nothing. What if others see that the punishment is so light and follow suit?" "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing." Han Xiao waved his hand and smiled. He knew that this group of players must have recorded it, and it would definitely be posted on the forum. His performance would not only make the players admire his judgment, but it would also increase the sense of identity of the faction. It was a method to win people's hearts. The punishment plan for Winter Wolf and the others was a warning. He could differentiate between friend and foe. If they were on his side, he would be lenient. However, if they tried to harm the army, he would not be merciful and give them a lifetime of amber. "It's good that you have a plan." Hela nodded. She rarely questioned Han Zhao's actions. Since there was a result, she did not voice her opinion and deactivated the remote projection. As the crowd dispersed, Han Xiao looked at the hundreds of amber specimens in the field and pondered. "Winter Wolf. I remember this person. He seems to be a backbone of the northern battlefront. Looks like those guild alliances will still appear." The national war is about to begin. In his previous life, a large-scale national war broke out in version 4.0, also known as the First World Server War. However, although it was called a national war, it was not purely based on countries. That was because the gameplay in version 4.0 was mainly based on teamwork. As the version progressed, the scale of the players' teamwork increased. In the end, some professional guilds and solo guilds formed large guild alliances and official organizations. For example, the Northern Battlefront, Denland, September Conference, and so on, the North American and South American guilds such as the Galactic Business Alliance, 5C Alliance, Plateau Eagle, and so on, and the Asian guilds such as the Southeast Alliance, Golden Alliance, Tropic of Cancer, and so on. These alliances were not purely based on countries. Different guilds in a country could belong to different alliances. Other than guilds, solo players would also join different alliances according to their preferences. In his previous life, there was no army, so the World Server War was not just targeted at one country. Everyone was tearing each other apart. However, this time, the Black Star Corps was too strong, so they were all enemies. The fuse of the national war was the faction leveling factor. The factions that the players belonged to started to transition to higher-level factions, such as the 3 Universal Civilizations and the Supercluster Alliance. The conflict between the two in the flickering world became one of the fuses of the national war. The source of the conflict between the three universal civilizations and the supercluster alliance was the issue of territory distribution. The intensity of the conflict would gradually increase. Of course, it was not a conflict between regular armies right from the start. Proxy wars were also an important part of it, and the Immortals were one of the proxies, fighting endlessly in the free competition zone. The national war is a good opportunity to harvest leaks. However, because of the existence of the army, the direction this time will definitely change greatly. I wonder what will happen. Han Xiao stroked his chin. At the same time, Flying Free and the others, who had left the cabin, excitedly posted the video on the forums. P.S. I've been attending the annual meeting for the past few days, so the updates have been a little unstable. After the annual meeting, I'll be back to normal. By the way, I recommend a book, All Villains Like Me, by Yunhai Chimajian. I clearly wanted to be a hero in the game. So how did I end up walking further and further down the path of a villain? Why do all the villains like me? Chapter 1148. During the closing ceremony, Flying Free and the other loyalists took action. After that, almost all the army players stayed on the forums, concerned about the outcome of Flying Free and the others. In the eyes of many neutral players, these people were reckless and impulsive. Even if they did not die, they would at least lose a layer of skin. Who knew how severe the faction punishment would be? However, as soon as Fly Free and the others posted the private video, it immediately shocked many people. In an instant, it became a hot topic on the forums that tens of millions of people followed. The recording completely recorded all of Han Zhao's performance in the private meeting. Seeing the army commander's confident and handsome appearance, the atmosphere on the forums suddenly changed and became one-sided praise. Flying Free. From today onwards, the army commander is my big brother. Whoever dares to touch my big brother, I'll kill them. I'm done talking. Who agrees and who disagrees? I'm the Northern God's idiot. +1 are Ila's gays. The army commander is too cool. It might be a little dirty. I'm Baki, Mecha Empire's spinner. Although most of the time, it's not too much to say that the army commander's performance today is awesome, right? Frog sees through everything. Logically speaking, the success rate of these spies trying to shift the blame should not be low. At the very least, the army should conduct a thorough investigation. I didn't expect Black Star's judgment to be so amazing. He saw through the difference between the two groups of spies and dealt with the matter accurately and decisively. The ones with ulterior motives were banned, while you loyal subjects only received a symbolic punishment. The army commander's actions are quite something. A sick name is idiot, as expected of the leader who has led the army for decades to reach this level. Brothers, I'm sorry. I can't go through the motions. I'm going to brag directly. The Legion commander is simply a man of great talent and bold vision, wise and brilliant, handsome and elegant, knowing how to make good use of people, good at dancing, unfulfilled ambitions, besieging Wei to rescue Zhao, secretly plotting in Shunsong, captivating the birds and beasts, beautiful and gentle. Tomorrow won't be better. I didn't expect the army commander to still remember us old buddies who have followed him since version 1.0. My heart warms. Praise Black Star. Bun Hit Dog. I'm a newbie who just joined in this version. Is the army commander actually such a charming person? He's practically a rare man in Galaxy. I love him. I love him. I'm going to watch Bun Hit Dog's Black Star videos right now. I love Dawn. Dog, remember to use a Smuff account the next time you advertise as a newbie. The video was uploaded to the forums as expected by Han Xiao. His goal of buying people's hearts was more than half achieved. This wave of actions was a combination of nostalgia, wisdom, and fair rewards and punishments. Not only did it give his image more of the so-called charisma of a leader, but it also increased the sense of faction identity of a large number of army players. This wave of feelings was enough to plant a seed in the hearts of many players, becoming another bond between them and the army. Although Han Shao did not deliberately explain his identity publicly, his few indirect actions had already washed away the players' doubts. At this time, the focus of the discussion on the forums was no longer whether Han Shao was real or not, but why Black Star had the Mecha Empire's ability. All along, there had been rumors among the players that Black Star could copy and imitate the abilities of other characters in some way. Today, this rumor was finally confirmed. As the saying of a wuxia fan was widely accepted, Han Shao also happily received a new nickname, Galaxy Murong Fu, Void Geomaji. A large number of players believe that this special talent of Black Star was the important reason for his rapid growth. Using battle to nurture battle, constantly stealing ultimate techniques from his opponents. In a sense, the guesses of the players were very close to the truth. However, guesses were still guesses. No matter how much they guessed, they would not know the specific situation of Han Shao. Furthermore, due to the lack of concrete evidence for NPCs, this theory was only spread among the players. Even if it was spread to the outside world, it would not be very convincing to normal people. Because Flying Free had single-handedly led this operation, he instantly became famous and was regarded by the players as the #1 loyal officer of the army. He expressed on the spot that he wanted to reorganize the Black Star fan club and turn it into a regular team recognized by the army. He also expressed that he wanted to communicate with the army commander and form an immortal guards army as his personal guards. The forums were filled with joy. Other than praising Black Star, there were also many people mocking Winterwolf and the others, crazily whipping their corpses. Mario's little mushroom, TSK. Some people just can't bear to see others doing well. They think of ways to drag you down and not let you develop well. They use some dirty and despicable methods, but instead of being ashamed, they are proud of it. Furthermore, they put on a sanctimonious face as if they are doing it for your own good. This is the best commentary for the word hypocritical. Big Smart got it. This is pointing at Black Star and scolding the Mecha Empire. Laughing emoji. Master Turtle Shellbind. Hee, it's a pity that our army commander is wise and cannot be deceived. Some people will probably lose everything. _ However, in the midst of the mocking of the army players, the Northern Battlefront publicly jumped out and claimed that they were responsible for this matter. Instantly, a war of words broke out on the forums, drawing the attention of the players. What could they do? Compared to praising Black Star, scolding others was more interesting. While the forums were in an uproar, the influence of the Black Star Cup was also fermenting in the galaxy. The fact that an army member had backstabbed Black Star on the spot attracted a lot of attention, attracting many galactic residents who were originally not interested in the topic. They started to look for the cause and effect of the incident with the mood of gossip. Not long after the closing ceremony ended, Han Shao made a public announcement to the entire universe in the name of the army, explaining this matter to the public and satisfying the curiosity of the spectators. Basically, it was just adding details to Fly Free's public comments about the Mechanic Emperor, making the details more vivid and interesting. Then it was published for the galactic residents to enjoy. At the same time, the announcement also deliberately emphasized that the Mecha Empire should not be angry. This was just the true thoughts of others and did not represent the attitude of the army. They would always maintain respect for the Mecha Empire, even if he was a bad person. At the same time, they also hoped that the Mecha Empire would always maintain the heart of an elder and not bicker with the younger generation. The galactic residents were still fine and were enjoying the show. However, the many beyond grade as who attended the event only had one sentence for Han Shao in their hearts. Wow, you really don't have any integrity. We like it. P.S. The schedule for today's annual meeting is very tight. I have to attend all kinds of activities, and many of my old friends who I only see once a year have to gather. I only have a little free time to write. With my speed, I can only write this much today. Sorry, brothers, please forgive me. Chapter 1149. By the way, in order to prove my moral integrity, I've decided to break the chapter with my brothers. It's better to have fun together than to have fun alone. Smiley face, underscore, P.S. The handsome man who unfortunately drew the pot feels the coldness of the world, underscore, smiley face, angle, underscore, godly mechanic. Gulp, please wait a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1150. The drama of the Black Star Cup spread like wildfire in the universe. There were at least 80 to 100 different kinds of rumors about Manison, but Manison did not respond to them at all. He could not be bothered with Han Shao at all. News usually only lasted for a few days, and this was especially true in the Galactic Society. The topic of the Black Star Cup spread for a period of time before it gradually cooled down. However, the reputation of the various domain army elites who had made a name for themselves in the Black Star Cup had settled down, allowing the grassroots members to see more army officers. The experts of various levels were arranged. For example, among the Calamity grade officers, Hardaway was publicly recognized as the first, Jadine a second, and so on. Those who did not participate or abstained were not known to the public. After the closing ceremony ended, Han Shao returned to the Black Star Palace to deal with various matters. He settled down Destiny's Child's subbody, Rhodey, and conducted various research. He originally wanted to let second-generation ES God Evans try to absorb Destiny's Child's subbody, but after some thought, he finally gave up on this plan. Firstly, it was still uncertain whether the transformation of Destiny's Child's subbody was considered an Esper ability gene awakening or a physical phenomenon mutation. Evans' black hole Esper ability could only deal with the former and not the latter. Secondly, Destiny's Child was very mysterious, and information forms were also a profound field. Han Shao was not sure if there would be any side effects after Evans absorbed it. He might even become a new subbody, so he did not want to take the risk. I still have to ask the Holy Covenant organization. They're the experts. In a laboratory, Han Shao looked at Rhodey, who was sleeping in the hibernation chamber, and nodded. The strangeness of Destiny's Child was beyond his ability, and his profession was not suitable. He had yet to find a way to solve Rhodey's subbody transformation, so he could only use the regular information form restriction device to stabilize Rhodey's body and try to slow down the transformation speed. Han Shao rubbed his chin. Speaking of which, the Holy Covenant organization was about to finalize a new deal. As long as he could get the compensation from the other party, he would be able to casually expose the Holy Covenant. For this, he had already performed a cleansing operation on the Holy Light Particle in advance. The Holy Light Particle had shrunk into Aurora's body and was completely shut off. In addition to the 2 universe blueprints from the Holy Covenant and the 2 from the Radiance, I now have 7 gold blueprints. Han Shao opened the interface and took a look. Some time ago, he had released the last 2 Radiance Beyond Grade A captives and obtained 2 new Universal Treasure blueprints. One was a piece of equipment exclusive to the mechanical deity called the Titan Spine Center. The mechanical deity itself was a mechanical construct formed by countless soldiers. It could transform into all kinds of shapes, just like a ball of mechanical sludge monster. Because of this property, what connected the mechanical deity's limbs was mechanical force and special magnetic fields, acting as the neural network of the mechanical deity. The larger the size, the greater the consumption. As the name suggested, the Titan Spine Center was a tool that served as the center of the body. It filled the mechanical deity's body, and according to the will of the user, it extended into different complete skeletal structures. There were humanoid shapes, beast shapes, and so on. It was used to support the mechanical deity's body. Mechanical force was used to control the mechanical deity through this device, and the consumption of building a neural network would be greatly reduced. As a piece of equipment exclusive to the Universal Treasure class, it naturally had all kinds of bonuses. The Titan Spine Center could increase the basic strength of the mechanical deity, making the body of the mechanical deity faster and stronger. It also enhanced skills such as mechanical deity's descent, as well as machinery affinity and efficiency. In the battle with the Mecha Empire not long ago, Manison's mechanical deity was equipped with a large number of universal treasures, which made Han Xiao very jealous. He felt that he was like a blank slate, and the celestial punishment edge in his hand was no longer attractive. He decided to get more mechanical deity equipment. This was the strongest trump card of a mechanic at this stage. Because others could not last for long, they could only use it as a trump card, but he and the Mecha Empire could use it as a normal battle tactic. Thus, the more equipment exclusive to the mechanical deity, the better. The other gold blueprint was a special device called Mechanical Territory. In terms of effect, it was somewhat similar to Bayoni's Fire Core Land and the Extinguished Army's Frost Core Land. It was even a little similar to the Evolution Cube. This was a large device that could increase the production efficiency of machinery within a certain range, the probability of mechanical life strengthening, the power of machinery equipment, and so on. To a beyond grade A mechanic, the greatest use of this thing was to oversee a machinery civilization or a dimension factory. It was equivalent to the mechanical version of the evolutionary totem. However, the production requirements were also quite harsh. The principle of this device was based on the theory of secondary dimensions. It would form a special domain within its range of effect, just like the descent of a secondary dimension. Thus, the core material was the origin energy fragments of the secondary dimension. The higher the quality, the better the finished product. Due to the difference in fragments, the final product would also have a small amount of characteristics of the secondary dimension that the fragment belonged to. Countless unstable new dimensions were born in the secondary dimensions every day, so there was no lack of origin energy fragments. However, one would have to take the risk of dimension collapse to collect the origin energy fragments. However, as long as one had the money, this was not a problem. Han Xiao had a piece of evil convergence origin energy fragment, which could be used for this purpose. 2 new blueprints, and the effects are not bad. Most importantly, as long as the finished product is produced, I will be able to obtain another 2 gods trait transformation points. Together with the deal with the Holy Covenant, I will be able to obtain a total of 4 points. Han Xiaoxin was secretly excited. He could not wait to turn into an otaku and spend half a month in the factory. Beep beep. At this moment, his communicator rang. Han Xiao opened it and saw that it was a call from the dynasty's exploration army commander, Brother Tarko. Old Tarko, what's the matter? Han Xiao glanced at him before lowering his head and continuing to fiddle with the device. The two of them were already very familiar with each other, so there was no need for formalities. I found some clues about the matter you asked me to investigate, Tarakov said. Han Zhao's hands paused. Not long ago, when they were chatting, he had specially asked Tarakov to ask the Dynasty's Science Institute about the progress of the wormhole coordinates left behind by ES God. He was worried that this was the trigger for Aesop's prophecy. How is it they have made a breakthrough? Tarakov's reply made Han Xiaoxin's heart skip a beat. What are the specifics? They have already determined which part of the unexplored universe the coordinates of this wormhole leads to, but they are unable to pinpoint the exact location. They only have a rough idea. Phew, at least they did not discover the World Tree or were discovered by the World Tree. Han Xiao secretly heaved a sigh of relief, but he was a little conflicted. The later the 3 universal civilizations came into contact with the World Tree, the more beneficial it would be for him. This was his greatest need at the moment. He did not dare reveal the existence of the World Tree civilization because with the style of the 3 universal civilizations, once they knew that there was a powerful civilization in the unexplored universe, they would definitely take the initiative to contact it. Even if he emphasized the danger of the World Tree, it would not work. Explaining why he knew the details was secondary. The problem was that the 3 universal civilizations might become more cautious because of his reminder, but they would definitely not give up on contact. If they knew that there was a dangerous advanced civilization in the unexplored universe, they would definitely take the initiative to attack. Waiting for death was not the style of the 3 universal civilizations. Therefore, No matter what form he used to reveal the accurate information of the World Tree civilization, it would only bring forward the time of contact between the two sides. Now that god had been suppressed under the Five Fingers Mountain for 500 years, he was the only one left in the explored universe who knew about it. Only he could influence the direction of the World Tree version, so he had to be careful. How did the dynasty react to this? Terekov did not doubt him and said, the upper echelons did not react. The research project of this wormhole coordinates is no longer secret, which is why I was able to find out about it. God has been captured for decades and has long become a thing of the past. Most of the research on him is not valued. Then, what does the Academy of Science plan to do? Continue to deduce the precise coordinates. Although we don't know why God values these coordinates, the Academy of Science will probably do the same as before. They will think of a way to activate the wormhole, throw a few detectors over, and wait for the results to be transmitted back. Han Xiao hesitated for a moment before saying, I feel that this research should be stopped for the time being. The unexplored universe is filled with danger, and no one knows what will happen. Right now, it's a crucial period in the competition between the three universal civilizations and the Supercluster Alliance. If another incident similar to the Intelligent Plague breaks out, it will be very disadvantageous for the dynasty. Terekov looked at Han Xiao suspiciously. You're clearly worried about this project. Do you know something? Would you believe me if I said it was my intuition? Terekov gave a fake smile, indicating that he did not believe Han Xiao's nonsense. He then casually said, I'll convey your message. As for whether they listen or not, it's none of my business. That's fine. All right, I'll get back to work. Also, don't forget to attend the Three Universal Civilizations Commendation Ceremony in 2 months. Han Xiao nodded and turned off the remote communication. Terekov's remote projection disappeared before his eyes. After pausing for a moment, he ordered the team escorting the Holy Light Particle to set off and head to the trading location set by the Holy Covenant, the free competition zone of the Flickering World. The day of the trade is almost here. In a certain secret base of the Holy Covenant organization, Oathkeeper opened his eyes and looked at the officers below. Has the emissary been arranged? He was sent out long ago. He's definitely loyal and reliable. What I want is not only loyalty, but also a reliable ability. I understand virtual mechanics too well. Black Star will definitely take this opportunity to track him down, so we have to be on guard. Have you prepared the emissary's escape method? The Black Star Corps is the local tyrant in the Flickering World. It's not suitable for us to have a conflict. We've already equipped the emissary with an information form stealth coding. As long as he gets the item, he'll activate the coding and disappear from the face of the earth. What about the guards? There are some, but there aren't many of them. They're only there to prevent accidents on the way. After all, this is the territory of the Black Star Corps, so there's no point in having more guards. Not bad. Oathkeeper nodded, indicating that he was quite satisfied. As long as we get the Holy Light Particle, we can start to reconcile the key to the Third Sanctum and start preparing for the Awakening Ceremony. Therefore, after we get it, we have to enter the darkest moment and completely cut off all contact with the outside world. After the trade is completed, I'll meet Black Star again. After that, there won't be any contact between us anymore. This will probably be the last time I see him. We probably won't have the chance to meet again in the future. Understood. Hearing his subordinate's reply, Oathkeeper nodded and started to daydream. To be honest, if not for the trade, he would not even want to see Black Star. Even now, he was still very confused. Who was the one who leaked the news? Did Mole even exist? P.S. The moderator is awesome and organized a new round of activities. The second Godly Mechanic fandom book review activity is in progress. Those who are interested can take a look at the book review section to understand. There will be rewards for participation. Asterisk, asterisk. Chapter 11:51. On a certain transit planet in the Flickering World's Dawn Star Cluster, the location chosen by Han Xiao and Oathkeeper for the transaction, Fu Ding was appointed as the transaction emissary, representing the army, to connect with the Holy Covenant emissary and wait for the other party to arrive. The entire process was monitored by Han Xiao from the headquarters. Oathkeeper had also used telepathic projection to meet with Han Xiao. The two of them maintained communication to ensure that the transaction went smoothly. They were both full of sincerity toward this transaction. In the office, a virtual screen floated on the table, playing the surveillance footage. It was a bustling area with people coming and going. Fu Ding was wearing a mask and standing by the wall of the building, scanning the people coming and going. The Holy Covenant emissary had yet to arrive at the designated location. "When will your people arrive? We've been waiting for almost 2 hours." Han Xiao leaned against the chair, staring at the screen in boredom, and casually asked Oathkeeper, standing opposite him. "They're almost here. You've already said this 7 times. They're really almost here this time." After a while, a man in the same disguise finally appeared on the screen, carrying a silver alloy suitcase. As if he had received an order, he walked straight toward Fu Ding. The two of them met face to face, but neither of them took any further action. "Is he the emissary?" Han Xiao asked. "That's right. Everything you want is in his suitcase." Han Xiao nodded and contacted Fu Ding, indicating that they could exchange the goods. Oathkeeper also used telepathic projection to give the same order. The two of them received the order and directly exchanged the goods. They then took a few steps back and checked the things in their hands. A suit of armor suddenly appeared on Fu Ding's body, wrapping him and the suitcase together. The next moment, his figure disappeared and suddenly appeared in Han Zhao's office. "The things are here." The armor opened, spat out the suitcase, and placed it on Han Zhao's table. This suit of armor was the king mecha that Han Xiao had temporarily lent to Fu Ding for his use. The teleportation beacon, throne, was left in his own hands, ensuring that he would be able to obtain the goods as soon as possible. Han Xiao opened the box, and white cold air immediately flowed out. Inside were 2 cylindrical containers side by side, containing 2 primal Esper ability entities. One was emerald green, and the other was sky blue. Next to the 2 containers was a data storage device. Han Xiao activated it and glanced at it. 2 gold-grade blueprints were recorded inside, and all the items that Oathkeeper had promised to trade were available. At this time, the interface also moved and notification popped up. Primal Esper ability entities. 4/4 Primal Esper ability collector. Milestone has been activated. When you fight an Esper, all your attributes will increase slightly, and the damage dealt by the Esper will be reduced by %. You have received the Third Sanctum Skill Fragment X1. Mission complete. Looks like it's the real deal. Han Xiaoxin calmed down and waved at Fu Ding. "You can go back." Before the 3-minute time limit was up, he activated the King mechanical suit again. With a flash of mechanical force, Fu Ding was sent back to the transaction site. Oathkeeper turned around and looked over. "Black Star, how was it?" The item is fine. What about you?" "What you gave me was indeed the holy light particle." Han Xiao raised his brows and extended his hand. "Then, happy transaction?" Although Oathkeeper was a mental projection without a physical body, he still pretended to shake Han Zhao's hand and said, "Happy transaction." The next moment, the Holy Covenant emissary seemed to have activated some device, and his entire person suddenly disappeared from the surveillance screen. "Oh, your people sure left quickly. Are you that worried about me?" Han Zhao's eyes flashed, and he smiled playfully. "It's best to be careful." Oathkeeper did not deny his fear of Han Xiao. Seeing that his emissary had activated the information form coding and strictly followed the plan to leave the scene, Oathkeeper heaved a sigh of relief and relaxed his tense nerves. This transaction was very important to the Holy Covenant, and he was worried about many things. Most importantly, he was afraid that Black Star would not abide by the contract and track down the Holy Covenant emissary by any means. Now, it seemed like Black Star did not have such thoughts, and the transaction went quite smoothly. With the Holy Light Particle, the success rate of opening the Third Sanctum could basically reach the expected height. Oathkeeper suppressed his excitement and said, "I will remember His Excellency Black Star's generosity." Since the transaction is complete, I should leave. Every time he dealt with someone like Blackstar, it was a risk. The more he spoke, the more information he would reveal. Thankfully, he finally got what he wanted and did not need to deal with Blackstar in the future. Oathkeeper only wanted to immediately deactivate the spiritual projection and never see Han Shao again. Because Oathkeeper had always contacted Han Shao through spiritual projection, it meant that only he could take the initiative to contact Blackstar, and Blackstar could not contact him. As long as he did not take the initiative to look for him in the future, Blackstar would never have the chance to meet him again. At this time, Han Shao suddenly smiled and said, "Don't be in such a hurry. I don't know when we'll meet again. Let's talk about a few dollars. Before you leave, I have a few questions to ask you." Oathkeeper's heart skipped a beat. "No way. Why do you have questions again? Every time you ask, I panic. It's definitely not a good thing." "Go ahead. I'll try my best to answer." Oathkeeper was patient and cautious. Han Shao narrowed his eyes, and a smile appeared on his face. Just like Oathkeeper, now that he had gotten the benefits of the deal, he had nothing to worry about. After pretending to ponder for a few seconds, he decided to start with the least stimulating question. He asked slowly, "Do you know about Destiny's Child?" Oathkeeper's eyes widened, and he froze on the spot. "What do you know, you bastard?" He stared at Han Zhao's eyes, wanting to see Blackstar's attitude. However, the other party's handsome eyes were filled with sincerity and clarity, as if he was really just asking casually. Oathkeeper found it difficult to calm down. He held back the waves in his heart and asked. He suppressed his emotions and asked, "Why are you suddenly asking about this? Did something happen?" "There's nothing to hide. I once met a special individual who claimed to be Destiny's Child. Unfortunately, he died in a nuclear explosion. Not long ago, I met another similar individual. After some investigation, I found that there seems to be a primal esper ability called Destiny's Child in the universe. It seems to be able to transform certain creatures into special subbodies. You happen to be experts in primal esper abilities, so I came to consult you. That's all. What else? But from the looks of it, your Holy Covenant organization seems to know a lot." Han Shao sized Oathkeeper up and said in confusion, "Don't tell me that Destiny's Child is in your hands. The way your emissary disappeared just now does seem like an information form. It's also the technology you guys developed, right?" Oathkeeper had a headache and secretly regretted overreacting just now. It was as if he had Blackstar PTSD. "No, don't talk nonsense. It's really not in your hands." "No," Oathkeeper denied. "Well, I don't care whether it's in your hand or not. I just want to know some information. You guys specialize in primal esper ability entities, so you must know something. Otherwise, you wouldn't have asked me just now." Han Shao knocked on the table and said casually. It looked like he believed it, but in fact, after seeing Oathkeeper's performance just now, he was 60% sure that Destiny's Child was in the hands of Holy Covenant. However, Oathkeeper would definitely not admit it, so Han Technician did not ask further. More importantly, he wanted to find out what Destiny's Child's mechanism was. Oathkeeper was helpless. After thinking about it, he picked out some information and explained in a deep voice, "Destiny's Child is a very ancient primal esper ability. Destiny's Child is a very ancient primal esper ability entity, and we don't know much about it. Most of what we know is information from other primal esper ability entities. It is said that Destiny's Child's ability involves the change of information form and the entanglement of destiny lines, and it has incredible precognition ability. The so-called destiny line is also called karma in some cultures. It's like a big net. If you flick one of the threads, the vibration will be transmitted to more threads. Therefore, every time it activates its ability, Destiny's Child has to read a lot of information and perform analysis similar to big data calculation to calculate the various possible consequences of an event and use it to make precognition. During this process, in order to read the so-called destiny line information, it will release special information form particles to collect information. This kind of particle will often cause the phenomenon of information form disturbance, producing part of its projection on random information aggregates and replacing part of the other party's information. In other words, it will create subbodies. The target is basically an individual life form. Some primal Esper ability entities said that Destiny's Child can turn into a high-dimensional information form. If it doesn't want anyone to discover it, no one will be able to discover it. Therefore, no one has been able to capture it until now. Therefore, you encountered two sub-bodies purely because you were lucky. Hearing this, Han Zhao's eyes flickered and his thoughts raced. The information about Destiny's Child that Oathkeeper mentioned was almost the same as what he had guessed. However, he felt that Destiny's Child's function was not limited to this. Only the precognition ability? Not necessarily. Since Destiny's Child could create sub-bodies, could it also create other things and even change the direction of the Destiny line? The so-called information form disturbance had several manifestations, and the materialized mirage was one of them. Han Xiao had not forgotten how the domino virus that caused the intelligent plague came about. In version 1.0, the information he had obtained from the Germinal organization showed that their Destiny's Child had the ability to affect the future, not predict the future. Han Xiao had only thought that the natives were ignorant, but now it seemed that it might not be a misunderstanding. Han Xiao asked a few more questions, and Oathkeeper expressed that he did not know and did not want to ask. It was obvious that he would not reveal any more information. Seeing this, Han Xiao had no choice but to change the topic. He narrowed his eyes and said casually, "By the way, you told me about the mechanism of your psychic projection ability last time. I looked into it afterward, and it seems that there is a primal Esper ability called Soul Flame that fits what you said." Hearing this, Oathkeeper did not hide anything. As if he felt that this was not a secret, he nodded. "That's right. I'm the host of Soul Flame." I looked into it again based on this clue. It seems that the last host of Soul Flame in the universe was a beyond grade A Esper nicknamed Soul Emperor. His name was Rovel Sisak. I wonder if you know him? After saying that, Han Xiao stared at Oathkeeper closely, wanting to see his every move clearly. However, Oathkeeper did not show any surprise this time. He said, "I know him too, but I don't know this person." Han Xiao frowned. Unlike the question of Destiny's Child, Oathkeeper did not show any reaction to this question. He was not sure if Oathkeeper was mentally prepared for this, or if he did not care about his identity being exposed, or if he guessed wrong and the other party was not the Soul Emperor in history who was suspected to have faked his death. Han Xiao said, "Since Soul Flame once accompanied this host, it must know more. Help me ask." As soon as he said this, Han Xiao felt a little strange. It sounded like asking a man to ask his current girlfriend about her ex-boyfriend, which felt like the behavior of a straight man. "What do you want to ask?" Oathkeeper did not comment. I'm quite curious. After Soul Emperor died, who took Soul Flame, and how did you get it?" Oathkeeper's tone sank. "Don't you think these questions are too private? I'm half a scientist. Is it wrong to be curious?" Han Xiao said righteously. Oathkeeper shook his head helplessly and said, "All right, I know you're curious about my identity and think that I'm Soul Emperor or one of the beyond grade as who killed Soul Emperor and took Soul Flame. But you're wrong. These people aren't me. I didn't steal the Soul Flame from anyone. When I met it, it was already free. It took me some effort to subdue it." Han Xiao rolled his eyes. "Then can you help me ask at what it experienced after Soul Emperor died?" "It's unwilling to say." Oathkeeper shook his head, paused, and said, "However, it told me that Soul Emperor didn't die in battle. Since you've seen his life information, I won't go into detail. Anyway, in Soul Emperor's last battle, his body was indeed destroyed, but due to the uniqueness of his Esper ability, his spirit did not die. He escaped and disappeared. As for where he went, Soul Flame doesn't know." Han Xiao pondered. He did not know if Oathkeeper was telling the truth, but from the other party's tone and what he said, it did not seem like he was fooling him. Soul Emperor did not revive in his previous life, which meant that there was a high possibility that he was still alive. If Oathkeeper was not Soul Emperor, then who was Soul Emperor? Could it be that he ran to the secondary dimensions and never came back? Do you have any other questions? If not, I'll take my leave first. Oathkeeper was a little impatient. He did not want to be entangled with Han Shao anymore. There were more important things waiting for him to do. He put all his heart and soul into the awakening ceremony. It was finally time to fulfill the oath he had made for many years, and he did not want to waste any time. In his opinion, being willing to stay and chat with Han Shao was already giving him enough respect. Otherwise, the moment the transaction was completed, he would have deactivated the projection and run away. After all, he did not need to interact with him again in the future, so he did not mind being a little rude. All right, you have more important tasks, so I won't hold you up. Han Shao stood up, made a gesture of sending him off, and deliberately sighed. Sigh, buddy, I have a pretty good impression of you. Once you leave, I don't know when you'll contact me again. I won't say anything else, but after you awaken as a primordial being, send my regards to the seniors. Oathkeeper, who was about to deactivate the mental projection, froze on the spot. The entire mental projection suddenly shook like white noise, representing intense, emotional fluctuations, almost to the point of insanity. The sudden shock caused Oathkeeper's mental frequency to become unbalanced, and his ability suddenly went out of control. His eyes widened, revealing a look of disbelief. How would you know our top secret? I've clearly checked all the upper echelons, and there isn't a single spy. The moment this thought surfaced in his mind, Oathkeeper suddenly froze. No, I've fallen into a blind spot. There's actually still one upper echelon that I haven't checked. Someone once said that when you eliminate all possibilities and only one is left, no matter how unbelievable it is the truth. So I'm the spy? Oathkeeper's brain was boiling. Chapter 1152. Ew. What exactly are you? Oathkeeper felt a strong impact in his heart. He was a little dazed, full of shock and doubt. Black Star waited until now to expose our intentions, so he must have known about this secret long ago. He was just pretending in the past, and he even managed to fool me. This be asterisk starred is too evil. Seeing Oathkeeper's shock, Han Shao was surprised. Why are you still here? Weren't you leaving? I know you can't bear to part with me, but if you're in such a hurry, you should go back quickly. Han Shao was calm, deliberately tantalizing him. Actually, I'm not in such a hurry. Let's talk for a while. Oathkeeper laughed awkwardly as he secretly gritted his teeth. You bastard, you're definitely doing this on purpose. How would I dare leave without getting to the bottom of this? The effect of these words was comparable to fellow cultivator. Please wait. Oathkeeper gave up on the idea of leaving immediately and pester Han Shao instead, looking like he would not stop until he got to the bottom of this. Since you're so enthusiastic, I can't reject you. Seeing that Oathkeeper's emotions were unstable, Han Shao stopped teasing him and invited him back to his seat. Oathkeeper took a deep breath and carefully said, So, you know about our plans. What did you find out? Black Star had already exposed the purpose of the Holy Covenant, so it was useless for him to continue pretending that he did not know. Furthermore, he felt that Black Star definitely had some ulterior motive. Otherwise, he could have kept this information hidden. Now that he took the initiative to expose it, it did not seem like an enemy's behavior. I have my own intelligence channels. Han Shao laughed and said, How could I possibly tell you this kind of information? You must be dreaming. Oathkeeper did not have much hope. If he were in Han Zhao's shoes, he would not reveal who the mole was either. He could only grit his teeth and bear with it. Since you know our goal, what are you planning? If he was facing an ordinary beyond grade A at this time, Oathkeeper might have thought of killing him to silence him. However, facing Black Star, he really did not have 100% confidence of winning. Black Star was just too much meat for him to handle. As long as Black Star wanted to, he could spread this information at any time. Because the other party had a handle on him, he had to be careful. What do you think I'm trying to do? Han Shao smiled faintly. I don't know. Oathkeeper had various guesses, but he didn't dare to say them out loud. In his opinion, there were only a few reasons why Black Star would do such a thing, such as blackmail or interfering with the plan. He couldn't possibly be just scaring him out of boredom, right? Why don't you take a guess? I can't guess. Tis TSK, you're so boring. Han Xiao shook his finger. Why are you so nervous? Since I didn't refuse to make a deal with you. Don't you understand my position? Oathkeeper's eyes flashed. You mean you don't intend to stop us? Why should I stop you? Han Xiao put his hands on his nose, narrowed his eyes, and said, I'm the leader of the Black Star Corps, the special consultant of the 3 universal civilizations, but I'm also the vice president of the Beyond Grade A Association. If you paid attention to the meeting of the gods a few years ago, you must know that I reached a consensus with the Mecha Empire during the meeting, Oathkeeper hurriedly recalled. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind like lightning, dispelling the fog. You're saying there are still too few Beyond Grade As? That's right. The Mecha Empire and I both said this back then, so you understand now. Han Xiao chuckled. Oathkeeper suddenly felt enlightened. His thoughts spun quickly, and most of his doubts were answered. No wonder Black Star chose to sit back and watch despite knowing our goal. This might be the only chance to rapidly strengthen the Beyond Grade as in a short period of time. It's in his interest. However, Oathkeeper still had some doubts. I thought you were on the side of the 3 universal civilizations. I didn't expect you to do this. This is just a matter of recent publicity. I'm naturally on the same side as the 3 universal civilizations, but that doesn't mean I've become their vassal. I'm against the Mecha Empire only because they're too radical and take a different path. However, my demand for the number of Beyond Grade as is the same as theirs. So, you plan to have a deeper cooperation with us? That's right. I won't stop you from carrying out your plan, but I also have a request. I hope that your revived historical Beyond Grade, as we'll all stand on my side. Oathkeeper nodded, then shook his head. This isn't that easy. They all have their own thoughts. Even if I revive them, they won't be my puppets. Han Xiao rolled his eyes. Speaking of which, I've actually been quite curious. Why do you want to revive the dead Beyond Grade As? He had been very curious about this question in his previous life. The Holy Covenant organization had revived so many strong people, so logically speaking, this should be very ambitious. However, during the World Tree War, the Holy Covenant only appeared with a large group of revivers to resist the World Tree civilization. It seemed like they only ran out because they were insecure. He did not know what they were doing in private. As for the batch of historical Beyond Grade, as that appeared during the calamity of the Supers, he was not sure if they were also from the Holy Covenant. Because of an agreement, an oath, Oathkeeper's tone became low, as if he had a story to tell. Tell me about it. Han Xiao was curious. Oathkeeper was silent for a while, as if hesitating if he should reveal more information. However, when he thought of Black Star's current attitude, he could only slowly speak. The Holy Covenant was born at the end of the Exploration era, established by a portion of the Primordial Ones. Our purpose is to revive those who died in the war. Although we're talking about that history in a more relaxed tone, Black Star, you should be able to understand the despair and unwillingness of the Primordial Ones. They spent their entire lives breaking through the limits of individual strength, but they were only treated as a new combat tool, fighting each other and dying one after another. Even if you don't want to participate in the war, the tide of the era will still drag you into it. You can check the information. How many Primordial Ones have met a good end? At the same time, because we've evolved to a new level, countless people covet and fear us. You should understand this logic. When an individual becomes too strong, the group will definitely be wary of them. There's nothing new in the universe, and this logic has not changed even now. At the end of the day, we're only a minority of heretics in the universe. We're both worshipped and feared. Among the Primordial Ones, there are some who are unwilling to be born in the chaotic era of war and wish to go to the prosperous era of peace, but their lifespans are limited. There are also some who are unwilling to die in the war. Even if they're sacrificed, they're still trying to be reborn in the future. Therefore, many people began to secretly look for a way to revive and split into different factions. Some of them formed the Holy Covenant organization. This is where we came from, and it's also my oath, I see. Hearing this, Han Xiao could not help but think. The Primordial Ones wish to live through the Exploration era by reviving. and he could understand this. It was not easy for them to obtain an individual strength that could dominate the entire galaxy, but they were reduced to tools of war. At that time, there was no place for the existence of beyond grade A organizations. Other than a few exceptions, most of the strong could only become the high-level fighters of the civilizations. Remaining neutral was an extravagant hope, and no one would be willing to do so. Furthermore, the beyond grade as had just been born, there is not a single civilization that did not want to delve deeper into their research. Coupled with the concern that the primordial ones would not be able to escape unscathed, the environment they lived in was extremely harsh. It was far from being as free, safe, and comfortable as the modern beyond grade as. The primordial ones had thought of all sorts of revival methods, or perhaps the underworld was one of them. It was just that very few people chose it. After all, not everyone was willing to become the subordinates of the two former sisters. Furthermore, the two sisters were not that reliable. No wonder the underworld's land granny had said that the two former sisters were also invited to participate in a project regarding the sanctums. It was probably related to the Holy Covenant organization, but the two sisters rejected it as if they did not want to be revived. Han Xiao stroked his chin and pondered. So what method did you use to revive those beyond grade as? This, I can't tell you. Oathkeeper shook his head. Han Xiao was dissatisfied. Humph, I can guess even if you don't say it. It should be related to the sanctums, right? I've shown my attitude, so you have to show your sincerity too. Oathkeeper felt that he was completely controlled by Black Star. After hesitating for a while, he nodded heavily. That's right, it's the sanctums. I really can't tell you anything more specific now. I'll tell you the method after I complete the oath. Han Xiao curled his lips and changed the topic. Then let's talk about cooperation now. I can facilitate your plan and keep it a secret for you, but you have to give me something in return, Han Xiao stated his request. Resources and intelligence were secondary. He mainly wanted to obtain the method to revive the dead through the sanctums, as well as some of the special technology that the Holy Covenant organization had accumulated over the years. He also wanted to establish good karma with these revivers. Regardless of whether Oathkeeper was willing or not, he could only trust Han Xiao and accept him as a collaborator. Otherwise, if Han Xiao revealed some secrets, it would be even more troublesome. Oathkeeper could not guarantee that Black Star did not have any ulterior motives, but he was not someone to be trifled with. He was not willing to fight now, but he would not be afraid if they really fought. The two of them discussed for a while and finalized a formal cooperation agreement. Oathkeeper had to leave a stable communication channel so that Black Star could talk to him at any time. He no longer had to wait passively. After doing all this, Oathkeeper went offline with a lot of thoughts in his mind. He would probably have to go through psychological rehabilitation when he returned. Meanwhile, Han Xiao stayed in his office with his legs crossed and his fingers touching his lips. He looked like he was deep in thought. What he said to Oathkeeper was the truth, but he did not tell him everything. He didn't want to increase the number of beyond grade as. On one hand, it was to increase the authority of the beyond grade as in the universe and his position in the association. On the other hand, it was to deal with the world tree. Aesop's prophecy and the progress of the dynasty's Academy of Sciences made him have no choice but to prepare and find more helpers. At the same time, he was also curious about the methods of the Holy Covenant to revive the primordial ones and wanted to dig deeper into the functions of the sanctums. Furthermore, he did not want the Holy Covenant organization and a large number of beyond grade as to leave his sight and hide. He proposed this cooperation because he wanted to leave a stable contact channel so that he could pay attention to and monitor the other party's movements. The final motive was that Han Technician wanted to try triggering a mission. He felt that the chances of this mission being triggered were not small. The result was also quite gratifying. A notification popped up on the interface. You have triggered the hidden mission. Return to the stage of history. Mission introduction. You learn from Oathkeeper that the goal of the Holy Covenant organization is to revive some of the beyond grade as in history. You have chosen to cooperate with them. Mission requirements. assist the Holy Covenant organization in successfully completing the awakening plan. Reward: plus 25 favorability of all revived beyond grade, as in plus 1 legendary point. Remarks: this mission is the initial mission of a series. Once you accept this mission, you'll have a higher chance of triggering more hidden missions of the same series. Initial mission of series means that this mission is the entry point of a storyline. That's right. If I did not cooperate with the Holy Covenant organization, the subsequent matters would have nothing to do with me. Naturally, I would not be able to intervene. Han Shao did not hesitate and accepted the mission. He had a feeling that this mission series was probably related to the main storyline of several versions. In a certain secret base of the Holy Covenant organization, Oathkeeper retracted his mental projection and let out a long sigh. He was still in a daze as he digested the changes in the situation. Boss, what's the situation? Did Black Star fulfill his end of the deal, or did he overturn the agreement? Law and Faye stood below. Seeing Oathkeeper's reaction, they could not help but ask curiously. Oathkeeper came back to his senses, tightened his expression, and said unwillingly, "From now on, Black Star is our temporary ally." Law and Faye's eyes widened. What happened? Why did it happen so suddenly? The Holy Covenant organization had never found a partner before. This was the first time. Could it be that this was not a simple deal? Why did Black Star suddenly become an ally? I've long heard that Black Star's ability to make friends is strong. Could it be that Boss was also... Tui, he fell for it? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.